You find all of them are waiting for somebody to come and get them. Mm-hmm. You have to free yourself. Bob Marley got that song, you have to free yourself from mental slavery. None of us can change the time. When I realized that we can change the time, because it's already been set in motion, all we got to do is apply what we know. And that's what I've been doing. So,
Stevie Wonder.
What about him?
Okay, I know from the information from the elders, they were saying, if I'm not mistaken, his nanny or somebody was
Detroit.
A part from Detroit and wound up going to Demona.
I met him in 1973 when she used to take care of little Stevie. And she went to Israel with me and her husband. Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. Because I seen Stevie Wonder visit over there to Demona.
Stevie to Israel and performed in Israel. They're right. I took Barry White, the Neville brothers, Whitney and Bobby. We've been pushing.
I was all over the news. Absolutely.
So I ain't been ashamed to lift up us as a people.
Asiel, the Redeemer Angel's here. Prince Asiel, Prime Minister is here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Prince Asiel, Sufferbom is here. Prince Asiel, the Redeemer Angel's here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationals, risen. Heavy mental, break metal from the devil. In darkness, sparks of light touch hearts. In America's ghetto jungle, sounds of thunder. Close ears like gun claps, bodies crumble. When one gang bangs, demon babies incarnate. Omens from UFO clouds beyond 8 Mile. Born heaven, Mikael as Asiel, birthed in Shabusalam, the mighty Hebrew from birth scene. The poison from the serpent's needle that perceived divine beings from Eden, known as Elohim. Rambo, first blood, being redeemed. Adamic seeds from amongst the trees that was deceived. In the garden, Kakma was lost as we traveled from Lumeria, our birthplace. 4 desert roads and stony gates, drowning in waters like Jason. Crystal Lake, United Snakes, a death place. Prophesying Deuteronomy 28. No place will be safe to Asiel reign. Earth to reign, Metatron. From celestial to the physical plane, as we rule supreme with our own team. Prince Asiel, the Redeemer Angel's here. Prince Asiel, Prime Minister is here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Prince Asiel, Sufferbom is here. Prince Asiel, the Redeemer Angel's here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationals, risen. Heavy mental, break metal from the devil. Beware the stairs, people under the stairs. Lions there for freedom, for Hebraic air. Holding the scepter in a golden chair. Nasi, Asiel, Malek, the throne of King David, sovereign, national established. Signs of lion paws and tassels. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationals, risen. Hit the western mind like a comet. Laza vomit, Torah constitution we follow. Solomon, I go into the souls of men to see the real from the fake in them. Asiel be the unstained glass, passion. Your Gentile oppression, from eastern to western, through all scepters, interceptor by way of prison spectrums. Raise up cycles, is electric, the brotherhood elevated, separating infinite, the oneness within, be no end. Remember, Israel, we on the rise for all mankind. Prince Asiel, the Redeemer Angel's here. Prince Asiel, Prime Minister is here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Prince Asiel, Sufferbom is here. Prince Asiel, the Redeemer Angel's here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationals, risen. Heavy mental, break metal from the devil. The devil.
And we know
know, the one thing that is necessary now is the you and I-ism. That is the key of the future of the black man, black woman in America. And the destiny of the black world rests solely with the direction in which the black man, black woman in America take. The international ramifications that Jesse Jackson spoke to with the PLO question goes way beyond that. Way beyond that. Because once we involve ourselves with a solution outside of America, then there are keys that are not controlled by the enemies of our people within the confines of America. If Africa is the continent that is richest and represents 80% of the world's known resources, and if Black America is that nation of African people that represent the intellectual resources of the world, it's a perfect marriage that must take place. And this is what we're talking about developing here. As we organize nationally, we are organizing internationally. For those are the keys for the total survival of our people. So this is what we bring to this conference.
All right, peace and power family. Again, thank you for joining TrueFlix Network, the Way of Yah podcast series. I'm yours truly, Mikael Ben Yahuda, and tonight is going to be a very powerful night. Has some powerful scholars, those that, spend their time and resources in trying to look for the answers, because a lot of you, like myself, have been trying to figure out what those answers are to the hidden mysteries that they've been robbing and stealing and, just burying for years and years. And so tonight we're going to kind of get that, looked at, you understand? And we're going to try to, get to the bottom of this. So we're going to bring my brother back. We just had him on the show the other day with Harry Rosenberg. Okay, so if you missed that, please go back and watch it. It was a very powerful bill. We talked about so many different things. We got a lot out of that, but I think tonight we're going to take y'all a little bit further. Also, tonight I got my brother, Zion Lexx. He's coming back. A lot has been taking place. Gonna catch us up to speed. Zion is a very prophetical brother. You know what I mean? So we got to give our love and our respect, flowers to our brothers and sisters now that's working hard bringing forth this information. So again, the individual we bring in tonight, many of you already know, but for those who are watching this podcast for the very first time, it's my brother, Prince Charlotte Dean, the mighty Hebrew. He's in the building. How you doing? Shalom alaikum, my brother.
Alaikum shalom. Shalom. It's definitely an honor to be back on TrueFlix Network. Give a shout out to Zion Lexx. Shout out to Dr. Bain Tsedek. So it's definitely an honor and a privilege to be back on the show to explore this rising or Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism rising throughout Africa and throughout the United States and throughout the Americas, basically all over the world. I'm just happy to be a part of the vanguard of this new messianic age. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a joy to see that our people are resurrecting all four corners of the earth. So, it's definitely an honor to be a part of this motion picture, so to say, right now.
That's right. And it's a beautiful thing, man. And I'm sure it's a daunting task, but somebody got to do it, like they say. And so you've been doing this for over 30 years. You're not just stepping to the table because you got excited one day and say, oh, I'm going to be a prince. I'm going to be a chief in this game when it comes to this work. Because you've been putting in work for a long time. You debated the best. You just did a crazy interview the other day, and you bring in more, So tell me a little bit about that, though. The interview you just had with Rosenberg, right? It was a very long discussion, but in short, what would be one of those moments that kind of still been sticking with you since that conversation? What would that be?
Again, absolutely. Again, giving all praise and honor to Yahweh to set apart one of Yisrael, to our forefathers, African Mishkak and Yaakov. One of the things that stuck out was first of all, I give a shout out to Rabbi Harry Rosenberg, for it took guts to come on the show. But there were some things that I pointed out that I don't know if the listener audience caught on. And one of the things was him bringing up the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And this kind of a blame game on the Nation of Islam, pushing some form of anti-Semitism. But if you watch, if it's not watch, but if you read the 3-volume set, Secret Relations Between Blacks or Behind or Between Blacks and Jews, you'll clearly see that all the sources that the staff team in the Nation of Islam put together were all sources that came from Jewish scholars. I mean, these are the people that wrote these things. This wasn't just something that just came from out of the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's mouth or out of his mind. These are things that could be substantiated and could be backed up. Right. So I really don't understand why one would juxtapose as if this was made up and like there was a secret cabal to destroy the Jewish populace, when in fact it's always been the opposite. It's always been the downfall, destruction of the so-called black man, woman, and child, the so-called Negro in the Western Hemisphere and all over the planet Earth. We've seen it continuously, even to this day, with the deportation or trying to deport 136 people from out of our community in Demona. You know, young Ambassador Azriel just was being interviewed on TV like for 5 minutes about us being connected to the Hebrew Israelites in Demona, and the media is actually playing off this, what I'm about to say. But they called him, you know, to create like a wedge, so to say, or a difference between us and Demona versus what we seen with the demonstration in Brooklyn, New York with IUIC. And I love how brilliant the young ambassador Azriel was to show that we have interconnections with Israelites all over the world, you know. And it's funny that you know, they kept pointing out us saying we were the real quote unquote Jews, you know what I mean, that the black Hebrews were quote unquote Jews. And it was brilliant how he countered that by saying that y'all never make any claims or statements when it comes to Europeans being called Jewish. Nobody says white Jew, white Hebrew, white this, white that. But when it comes to us, you have to put that adjective next to us. This black, this, which for real, it's a covert term dealing in what is called the Project Megiddo Act. When you study Project Megiddo, it was an off branch of COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program, which was to stop the rise of a black messiah who would electrify the nationalistic aims of black America. So they create these code words. Out of that COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program, you had what was called the King Alpha Plan. The King Alpha Plan transformed into Rex 84 because with Rex 84, they had to include certain Latino and Native American populaces that they seen as disdain or undesirable to who they were dealing with, which was the so-called Negroes. Then from that King Alpha Plan, Rex 84, you had the Project Megiddo. Megiddo is a Hebrew word that means Armageddon. So in 1999, you see this rise of Y2K and millennialism, and their objective was to crunch down any form of black Hebrew militancy that they see fit was militant. And this has been trickled down to now the 21st century, 2022, and you're seeing this butt breaking, actually butt breaking, just like I said, when it comes to our people, just like they did during slavery times. You see what they did to Keon Earth. You see what they did to Nick Cannon. You see what they did to all those who rose up and said, I am Israel. Some way, somehow, where is this fixation with the elite within the Jewish populace? And let me even go deeper. Yahweh, when he judged the nations of people, even with us. He judged us as a nation. And I'm pretty sure you did have individuals that were good, but they suffered with the collective. And when we talk about the Jewish people, they reap the benefits as a nation from our suffering. Okay? From our suffering. So if you are being quiet about the subject matter and you sitting on the sideline and you're not saying nothing about what is happening to us, then you're also a part of the problem. You may not be a part of the inner cabal.
Right.
But you're guilty. Saying?
You're guilty.
But you're guilty.
Yes.
And the cabal is functioning 100% of its capability based on your silent treatment when it comes to standing up for truth, freedom, justice, equality, what is right. And, you know, that was one thing that stood out. Another thing that stood out, every time each individual spoke, it was as if he would try to some way undermine what was said. Like when Dr. Tsedek was breaking down certain Hebrew words going back to its root and bringing the pronunciation out. He said, and you've seen it, yeah, you know, that's truth, but I also have to be mindful about false prophets. But if he's telling the truth, why would you try to align that with a false prophet? So it's as if you try to put out there doubt as to what was being conveyed.
Right.
You see, that right there I seen. I also seen that there was this thing about the conversion. And see, this right here actually gave the hand away, because when you look at them verses that he was using the word convert, it was stranger, not convert. When you say convert, it gives the connotation that somebody's converting to a religion, verse being naturalized within the body politic structure of things, which would be the Hebrew nation of Israel. The Constitution is the Torah.
It's the Torah.
So if we have a constitutional breastplate set up, you can't just come into our sovereign land and say, I am an Israelite. Like right now, brother, you can't go to Japan and say, hey, I'm Japanese. It's a difference from being a Japanese national versus a Japanese citizen. That's two different things. A Japanese national is one who has a patrilineal lineage to these people. The only ones that are direct descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is those who patrilineal line goes back to the Zakar, the seed of these men.
Right.
You see where I'm saying?
Right.
The seed of these men. You cannot convert to be a Hebrew Israelite sovereign national. And also, what I brought out was very imperative. These 11 tribes, these 10 lost tribes. Now you got to look at the historical background of how one views the Northern Kingdom and how they fell into disdain and idol worship, and they were sacrificing their children to Moloch and any of the other deities they could amongst the nations that were around them. So what does he do? Most identify either two things about the Israelite population in Africa. Either they are part of the 10 tribes of Israel, and the main tribe they will identify you with, as they did the Falasha, as well as they did the Eobo, is the tribe of Dan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or they will align you through the relationship that Joseph had with the Commission or Egyptian Egyptian priest's daughter, Anah. So they have basically said, because I made mention to the rabbi, remember I said, I seen you do a presentation on the tribes of Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at some of his old videos, he was believing or he was expressing that the black presence in Israel came when Joseph mixed his seed by the way of having children with the Egyptian priest's daughter. And that's how basically you get this dark skin within the nation of Israel. But then as he develops in the evolution or his evolution and growth, it went from that to being a part of the 10 tribes. But you got to understand why geopolitically most of European abstraction that practice jewelry, okay, think like this. Because if we are part of the 10 tribes, then that leaves in their mind Judah and Levi. And yeah, you got Benjamin there, but he's in the mix of that. So the southern kingdom in their mind constitutes that the national sovereign jurisdiction will come from the line of King David. So that's the national jurisdiction. Whoever controls that jurisdiction controls all the tribes. And they have the power to define, right? This is why they have a Sanhedrin. This is why they're saying Judaism. This is why they say you got to go through halakha and conversion, et cetera, et cetera. This shit is all geopolitical, yo. Then they identify with Levi. That's ecclesiastical jurisdiction. When you control the national jurisdiction of a people and the ecclesiastical jurisdiction, you control life. They had to identify, this is why you have, you know, your Michael Cohens, the Lishoviches, and all this, that they're identifying with the ruling 2 tribes. And within the ruling 2 tribes, you see these 2 anointeds. The reestablishment of the Davidic bloodline and the reestablishment of the Aaronic Kohanim bloodline. So you got this reestablishment of King David and this reestablishment of Aaron, the high priest. Whoever controls them 2, they control everything. And even when you look at the United States system and how it's designed, you can see that they have it set up and codified by the way of a national jurisdiction and a Levitical jurisdiction. And when you see the judge that sits there, he is playing a role as Aaron, the high priest. These people that are in these different high-ranking mystery systems in schools, they understand exactly what I'm saying. So this is why he was telling us, you got to convert. You got to convert. Who only can do the conversion is those that control the national jurisdiction. This is why they identify with Jewish and Judaism. And notice he stops when he starts with Ezra, the priest, and
Right.
then start going up to Nasi Ha Yehuda, or Nasi the prince Judah, and then 1,000 years later, etc., etc. The understanding of Talmud goes into Europe, etc., etc. What we're saying is that when you look at Obadiah, the first chapter, you see an ambassador going up to the cliffs and the rocks, teaching these people Torah. Now, we got to understand the history behind how these nations became amalgamated with Torah. We see instances where King David put garrisons on the Edomites and taught them Torah. Then you see when Israelites were taken into captivity, like the Assyrian captivity, we see that they were replaced with Ethiopians and even those that were playing a priestly role and all that. We see this in the Book of Kings. Then if you go into the Book of Maccabees, we see John Hyrcanus forcing Torah on the Edomites. We see in the 50th chapter of Ezekiel, we see that the Edomites also go into the Babylonian captivity. This is where they developed certain elements or got certain elements of understanding of Talmud. They took this up to Europe 1,000 years later. But before then, they start developing certain schools in Tobias in Jerusalem. That's why you got the Babylonian Talmud, you got the Jerusalem Talmud. And then years later, they take this up to Europe, but they used it to control the banking systems of these different nations that they were conquering. They would suck them from out of their riches and put that specific country in bankruptcy to such a point they would have to come back to those that blood sucked them for some form of remedy. And this is how they were able to control globally, internationally, when we talk in economics, government of power, military. You see, we watched them destroy men in front of our eyes. We seen it. There's no denial. We watch these people, those global elitists that are in fact Jewish. They're Jewish, man. All of them. And we watch. Just like, you know, and I mean, I'm not taking shots at the rabbi, but, you know, I'm speaking facts. Even though the rabbi have been going on shows after this show and those previous and been taking shots at Kanye West, taking shots at you or Irvin, taking little shots. And what we saying is, let the truth be told.
Right.
The truth is, we are Israel.
Right.
And why do they have to control? Because I said, if we're being oppressed by those of your Gentile European abstraction in America, the United States, and then we leave in 1967 and then start to return into Israel late 1968, 1969 to this day. Now those that are ruling in the Eastern Hemisphere, it's the European abstractions that enslaved us in America. Why do they have to control the narrative? Why do we have to go to them? Why, if that is our land, why, if y'all acknowledge it, that we are these people, why do we have to go to the Sanhedrin and convert?
Right.
If this is a nation of people, where does it tell us that in the prophecy that it would be a Sanhedrin who clearly has foundations of racism? Y'all want to talk about it ain't racism. Well, why when we talk about one, the Israelites from Ethiopia. Y'all keep calling them Ethiopians. He did that. He was doing that. And I had to correct him. I said, no, I'm not. I'm going to call them by the original name. They're not Falasha. They're not Ethiopians. They're Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationals that resided in Ethiopia, but originally from Israel.
Right.
So if y'all are not manifesting forms of hate and racism, so why, when the Israelites from Ethiopia was donating their blood in Israel, y'all were all throwing their blood away? Y'all would take their blood when they would donate their blood, and then when they would leave, they would turn their back. You throw their blood away.
Yeah. Wow.
But I thought we was all the same. See, they know if we the same, if it's not racism, why do y'all call us cushy? I was called cushy.
Yeah. Yeah. In an interview the other day, speaking with, you know, the Sar Amdiel, you know, being Yehuda, and you know, he was telling me, he was like, man, I hear you calling me that, you know, and it's interesting, you know, even then, like what you were speaking of back in the 60s, they're still doing it today, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And then for you to even to say that, you know, you're willing to work with the people, you're willing to create some programs and things like that, but yet I'm having a conversation talking about, you know, 130 people getting deported from Dimona. Like, why is that even happening? Why are they having that discussion? But yet you and I having a discussion, you know, about, you know, we working together. It doesn't make sense. It
Okay.
doesn't add up.
Okay.
You know,
It doesn't add up.
yeah.
And
So
our people. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Salika, go ahead.
no, because, you know, the thing is, like, you know, as you were speaking earlier, you know, I'm thinking about some of the things as well for myself that, you know, he expressed that didn't make sense for me, was the dismissal of their portion in the slave trade. You covered that already, but you know, that part stuck to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I look at my family, my personal family, bro. I do extensive research when it comes to my family history, genealogy. We just did a book, almost 300 pages of genealogy in my family history book, and I see and know the enslavement. I see and know all of the rape and the incest and things that they were creating. You know what they do on these plantations, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's where they come from. You see what I'm saying? That's where I come from. You see what I'm saying? So for you to be dismissive like that, I mean, it's like a slap in our face, you know. But again, I don't want to take away from what you got, you know, tonight.
No. I
Yeah.
want you to add on, just like, you know, I was telling a couple of my students, I'm glad you're doing this show, because I want y'all to take what I'm bringing and to build off of it. A real teacher is a student, an intensified student. As he or she teaches, he learns at the same time. So I need for you to add on. You understand what I'm saying? Because two sets of eyes is always better than one. You know, and I'm glad that we did what we did, because it also set the stage of diplomacy. So to say, when it comes to, okay, we can sit at the round table and discuss this matter, because eventually the discussions are going to transform to now self-autonomy. Because you have the Hebrew Israelite movement is the fastest growing black movement ever. The late Prince Asiel ben Yisrael brought more people repatriate back to Africa than even Marcus Garvey. This is a historical fact. The Hebrew Israelites have always been basically the foundation of a black power thought. The first people to say, I am black and proud, are in fact Israelites. When you go to Prophet William S. Crawley, when you go to Prophet Enoch from out of South Africa, who we will be talking about today, back in 1909 and 1921, right? You're going to see that. You're going to see Prophet Frank F. Cherry. The Negro National Anthem that we all love dearly was put together by Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford. He's the one that introduced that in the UNIA. Most of the schematics that was put together in the UNIA were actually written by Arnold Josiah Ford. These are just historical facts. And something I do want to say and bring up to those that are in opposition to, okay, Zion Lexx is saying he's on the stream.
Okay, yeah, bring Zion on in. Peace, my brother. Peace. Shalom.
Peace. Can you guys hear me loud and clear?
Okay, I don't need. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. I'm gonna put my mic on mute.
Okay, hallelujah. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to y'all for preserving the life of Chief Abdiel Ben Levi. This is not somebody that I know on social media. This is somebody I know personally, and we put ground roots footwork together many years on them streets in New York, you know, and I'm proud of him. He's moving in accord to this day. You know, Zion Lexx has stood the test of time. You know, he's been here, and he's like a one-man army. You know what I mean? He's a one-man army, and he, you know, I watched, you know, this brewing. If you watch any of Zion Lexx's videos, this been brewing since Zion Lexx broke down the Hebrew Gematria when it pertains to Deuteronomy 28:68. So if you start watching Zion's, let's say roughly around between 8 to 10 years on down, you can see this, so to say, climax of this taking place today. This was going to have to come to the forefront. This confrontation of two nations battling, okay? And the communities that me and Zion Lexx come out of, we taught that Edom was the Jewish man, not the so-called white man, but the Jewish man. So if one wants to take it literal or metaphorically, the confrontation is here right now. And I see people on social media, and to get back to what I'm saying, now passing to Zion, in some way, somehow, I don't know where Dr. Ben Tsedek is at. I don't know if he's back there. I just tried to call him, but this PowerPoint is a very powerful PowerPoint. But what I wanted to say is those that are on the other side, the Black conscious community, the Afrocentric community, those that deal with Kemet, whatever. I don't have to mention y'all platforms, but y'all got to stop playing the double agent for the enemy. Let this demon be a man and face what he has done. We as a people prolong our captivity because we always want to some way, somehow let the enemy sliver from the things that they have done to us. Let this man fight his own battle. It's just like it's 5 of you, one man on the other side, and one man call out your friend. A real man gonna say, yo, go fight that man. Something's there try to jump him. So what I'm saying is the Jewish man don't need for you to be on the sideline acting like a cheerleader. Oh, I believe that they are the real people. Oh, I'm beside my Jewish man. Y'all know who they are. Oh, right. I'm beside the Jewish man. Or I'm like, what are you talking about? Look what happened with Shaquille O'Neal. See how the Most High exposed a liar? You have all that to say, but back in 2018, you showed the movie Hebrews the Negroes in your movie theater. We have you in pictures with ISUBK. Barkley assaulting our brothers, but you running around dressing like a woman. You running around kissing men in their mouth. Now, if Irvin or Ye, formerly Kanye West, would have said, you know what, I'm coming out the closet, I feel as though I'm a woman, they would have been like this. It would have been cheers. But once he said, I am Shemitic, it became a problem. So I spoke enough. Zion Lexx is on. I'm gonna pass the microphone to Zion Lexx. Shalom, shalom, Chief Abdiel. What's up with you, Robbie?
All is well. All is well. First and foremost, giving all praise, all honor, all glory to the Most High, the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, the true and the living God, even the Most High God. We say that He is our creator, our maker, our owner, and our possessor, and to Him belongs the life of all worlds. Giving due respect to my teachers that came before me directly, um, Hanasi, Sapor, Ben Zevaloon, Chief of Chiefs, may his memory be blessed, Chief of Chiefs, Chief Naphtali, and Crown Prince Zari Shaddai. Um, we go back, we got lineage, we have experience. One of the reasons why I could say our brother Mighty Hebrew carries impact is in part because there's a lineage to what he's saying, right? He sat under a series of elders. He came under tutelage and training people who already had names of renown in our community. And far too often today in the Israelite community, no one is interested in being an Indian. Everyone wants to be the chief on the first day, right? So the blessing that we have is that we first served before anyone ever thought of us as leaders. We first served before anyone even thought of us as leaders, right? The mark of true leadership is to have service somewhere. And our walk, even though Mighty Hebrew is a little older than I, pretty much begins around the same time. I came into this way of life in February of 1994. And I started at Beth Shalom in Brooklyn, New York. And from there, moved to a place called Shema Israel in mid 95. And sat under great elders that gave us the ability to speak these powerful words that we are renowned for today, that we are known for today. So if we are great in part because we had great leadership and we had great teachers. And because we're now pushing almost, for myself and Mighty Hebrew, our 50s, we're pushing 50 soon, right? We're both in our mid 40s. There's a transition of leadership happening right now where a lot of the elders that we came under, a lot of them slowly but surely are sitting down as they should because they've done their part. It's now up to us. And so that baton is being passed. So we are tasked right now in this era, in this generation, to represent our God, our nation, our community to the best of our ability and some. And anyone or anything that stands or comes as a hindrance, stumbling block between or before that or behind that, we're going to knock clear out the park. And so I open up with those words, which are passion filled, to also say that I caught the interview that you did with Rabbi Harry Rosenberg. And I applauded the way in which you conducted the interview. And the reason why I applauded it is not just because you're somebody that I know for such a long time, right? Because me and you, we have enough knowledge and wisdom that if something is wrong, it's wrong. You're not just gonna vouch for Zion Lexx unless Zion Lexx is really living this truth, right? And I have to say the same thing about you. So when I say that I applauded your interview, I know you know that, but I'm saying to the listening audience that I genuinely did. However, I took issue with some of Harry's words, which I can tell just based on your body language and me knowing you, that there were certain things that he said that you took issue with, But as an interviewer and as a moderator, you got to distance yourself from trying to debate the person you're interviewing. And everybody
You've
don't
seen
get that.
You've seen
Yeah.
that.
People don't understand that. Like sometimes in the
Right.
past, I've had people on my show that have different views, either grossly different or slightly different. And people say, "Oh, why you didn't do this? Why you didn't do that?" Because I'm interviewing him, homeboy.
Right.
Right? An interviewer can't be debater. Shout out to Sarnetta. But that's some of the issue that he has. Right?
Right,
He
right,
acts
right.
as a interviewer, a moderator, and a debater all in one.
Dang,
And you
dang.
can't do that. You can't do that. So I did a live stream 2 days ago to respond to, in part, the video that you did with Harry, and they banned it from YouTube.
I heard that's true. I ain't even get to see it yet.
They banned it from YouTube because it was a heavy video. And
Damn, you.
it was heavy, brother. So they banned the video, gave me a copyright strike, and told me that I couldn't go live on YouTube. I couldn't make a post. I can't do a live stream for 7 full days. Right? I guess until I learned my lesson. But what did I do? We live in an era now where honest criticism for that community, and apparently I can't even say their name. If I say their name, that might be a strike on this channel. That might cause this video to come down. So I obviously feel like my hands are tied, right? So honest criticism of that community is almost impossible on social media platforms in this climate right now. So we just have to be very tactful with the way in which we present our ideas. Nothing that I said should have incited the reaction for YouTube to ban that video. But because I criticized that community, they banned and removed it indefinitely. And so I say to our community that now more than ever before, you guys got to support your teachers and your leaders. That goes for people like Mighty Hebrew. That goes for people like myself. That goes for our brother Mikael Ben Yehuda. That goes for all of our illustrious men of renown, men of character, men of name, men of deed, men of rank throughout our community. We got to start supporting these men. You have to really support us because many of us are, and I'm sure everybody gets this, and if you don't get this, you definitely need to wake up. Many of us are literally risking our lives to speak this truth because we know how far this government has proved to go when you speak truth to their power structure.
Right.
So
Right.
we have to support one another.
And you know, and it's a tragedy that we have to deal with those type of powers that don't want truth out. And when you posted it online, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro, it throwed me because you didn't really go in at all. I was there. I was there. You didn't go. You took it easy.
I took it very easy. You
You
guys
took it-
know how hard I can go. Shout out to Sarah Seti. You know how hard I could go.
You took
I'm
it
still.
easy.
You got that video, man? Where you? I want to see that
Do
smack.
you need to send me that video so we can run it over here. See what they do over here.
We might be releasing that video 20 years from now, man.
Listen,
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but that's what we're dealing with, you know what I'm saying? But you know, like when you think about it, how they, you know what I'm saying, like just in war, you know what I'm saying, like they knock down one soldier, you still got like 10, 20 more still standing. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So they can't knock us all down. You feel me?
Okay,
So
and
you
yo,
know,
so not to
yeah,
cut you off, Dr. Baines Zedek, he said he's trying to come on now.
bring them in.
Um
Now I have somebody in the back room. So once he comes in, bring him onto the show. And then Mighty Hebrew, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna step off a little bit. I'm trying to take care of something real quick, but I'll be right back. But it's your show, my brother. You okay with that?
Absolutely. I'm
Brother
trying to
Zion
see how I'm
Lexx.
gonna show this PowerPoint.
Okay, well let's get that working. I'm here until we get that working. We okay? Let's see what we got to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But I want to ask Zion Lex. Yo, Zion, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Would they just, the situation that just happened with Irvin and this apology thing, what do you think is going on with him psychologically and spiritually? Do you think what he did was strategical? Was it dumb? How do you see these responses when it come to him, along with Kanye supposedly apologizing to the general public? I'd like to know your wisdom on that, or how you see it.
All right. The first thing I want to say is shout out to our brother Kyrie Irving. That's the first thing that I want to say.
Okay.
That brother is our younger brother. We have a lot of love and we have a lot of respect for that brother. And we have mutual friends and we have mutual communication with him. So we want to be very careful in the way in which we speak about our beloved brother. Because first and foremost, for him to go on any platform, right? I'm not going to say a major media platform. I'm going to simply say any platform, because someone of his popularity, someone of his notoriety, they can come on our channel and our channel will be the popping channel during that moment. Wherever they go is hot. So the fact that he took that information and spoke it out there, put it out there on the internet, he was risking his livelihood. He was also risking his life. So we have to be very, very careful in the way in which we critique our brother. And I want to say, with everything that he has said and some of the things that he had to go back on his word with regard to apologizing, none of us should lose or take away any respect from that young brother. Because number one, I learned years ago from my teachers that a boss is someone who makes sure other people eat. That man is not just responsible for food that goes on his table. Kyrie Irving feeds many.
That's a fact.
And so his decision to go back and apologize cannot simply be construed as his own opinions and understanding. This decision that he came to is in light of everyone that he's feeding. And as leaders, sometimes you're tasked with making a very uncomfortable decision. I stand by our brother, regardless of the apology. We didn't want the apology. Absolutely not. But we will stand by our brother and his apology. Why? Because we understand why our brother did it.
He had to do what he had to do.
Why he needed to do it. And so where I stand on it, I know that that system wants to buck break us. They want to emasculate us in front of mass media. And they have in part been successful in doing that with many people, and they're trying that with him right now. And more than anything, what he needs is not our critique. And mind you, we do have critique that we can offer him, by the way. But those critiques should always be behind closed doors. If I got a problem with something that my brother, the mighty Hebrew, Prince Charlan Dean, has said or done, I have to first call him. I have to first have a behind the scenes conversation with him. If it's a serious enough matter, I have a behind the scenes conversation with the elders. But I don't automatically, as soon as I hear he did something or see him do something, open up YouTube, go live, and go in on my brother. We should never do that.
That's right.
If we say we brothers.
Okay.
Right? So I stand by Kyrie Irving. I know that the decision that he came to was very tough. And as many of us who are close to him and are reaching out to him have tried to get the message to him, is that we're here for you. We're here for you. You're not alone. You got the support of an entire community. Shout out to IUIC.
Absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth.
That came down to the Barclays. I live in New York. Came to the Barclays deep.
They came.
Israelites always talking about what one Israelite group is not doing. This group don't do this. This group, they do this, but that's off. Instead of focusing on the things that we do that we clearly disagree with, why not start to also pay attention to those things that we are doing that are right, begin to pool those ideas and resources and assets and actions and see how we can bring them together in the community and begin to work together in spite of those differences.
That's
so
right.
Shout out to Elder Nathaniel of IUIC, because time after time, that brother has a rich legacy of always being on the front line for our people. Huge
That's
shout
a
out to
fact.
that group. Huge
That's
shout
a
out.
fact.
Differences
I
aside.
felt, yeah, yes. I felt proud when I seen that, Chief Abdiel. I was looking and I was just, Israel, y'all get deep out NY. And I'm just looking. And I say, yo, one thing I can say about IUIC, when there's a problem, they coming. They coming, and they've been coming, as you said, whatever doctrinal differences, we at war. So none of that matters. They went out there, they represented, and I'm proud of Kyrie Irving and his response when the media tried to bring up IUIC to him. And he immediately, look, this ain't the platform to even talk about this.
Immediately.
You know what I'm saying? So he's very strategic. He's a brilliant brother. And I'm glad that you brought up that man got mouths to feed. It's not just about him. He has mouths to feed, where them people that he feeding, they got to feed their families.
That's a fact.
Sometimes, you got to bite the bullet. But the point was, his words cannot be taken back.
That's right.
From what he originally said. So whatever comes after that, we all basically know what's going on. Also want to give a shout out to Kanye. What they mad at now, that move, I want to ask you, is it me, or do you think Kanye West did what he did this is what's on social media, to get out of them contracts? I'm saying if he did, he is one of the most brilliant men that's walking this earth, because now they angry at him because these clothes that were being sold for so many thousands of amounts of dollars that the average person couldn't pay for, he only charging $20 now. How you feel about that, and what's going on now with that situation?
First, I want to say that our brother Kanye West is an absolute genius. And being a genius doesn't always mean that we should agree with everything that a person says. But to deny the genius of that man is to be dumb, deaf, and possibly blind. He is a deep intellectual, hence his connection with our understanding, right? Our understanding of our identity, of our moral and spiritual conditions in this country, right? It took a mind like Kanye to even grasp this. There are many celebrities that we speak to that can't find the strength nor the courage to be open about their practice and awareness and faith in this particular heritage. Mighty Hebrew, that there are many celebrities that we dialogue with behind the scenes. And when I say many celebrities, I'm not talking about some burnt out rapper from the 80s. I'm talking about your top 5 right now. No Day Israel. We are in communication with them, but they can't get on the forefront and admit it or talk about it because of the millions, and for one of them, billions that person could lose. And so when you have a man like Kanye, who is unafraid to use his voice, his power, his notoriety, right, to speak this truth to power, the last thing that we should do is to stay away from him. We got to support him. So I know that what Kanye West is doing was calculated. I believe in my heart of hearts that Kanye wanted out of the contract, right? Kanye is not a fool. You think it was an accident for Kanye to get on Drink Champs and say, I can say anything about that community and they won't take away my deal? Kanye knew what he was doing, because by saying those very words, he would force them to have to put him down, to have to cancel him. Because if not, they would lose contracts. Kanye is a super genius. And some of us, unfortunately, are super stupid because we can't see it. And so, even him, I stand behind to a certain respect, because he has shown that he's unafraid to lose it all to tell this truth. That's a real leader. A real
Wow.
leader should first be about Yah, God,
Uh-huh.
the creator. Man last, himself last. Kanye proved he's willing to lose it all. For that, I'll always stand behind that brother.
Wow. I might need your help, Zion Lexx. I put my PowerPoint in your inbox. Can I use you today?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's great. That's great. That's brilliant. But yeah, getting back, I'm loving this vibe, man. I wait. Oh, I do want to congratulate you and say happy Earth blessings on your past Earth Day.
Thank you,
What's
man.
up,
Thank
old
you.
man?
Hey,
Old man,
I'm finally
driving balls.
arriving, man. I'm finally arriving. The turn up has been real. Hey, listen, we still got a couple more days in this month for me to celebrate. It's not my birthday, it's my birth month.
Oh my God. You know you Scorpion, man. You already know how you get down, man. You
Yeah,
gonna go
man.
all I want to commend you, and I think a lot of brothers don't do this. I want to commend you in your marriage. You've taught me something I never openly said to anyone. You taught me that sometimes it's wise to keep your marriage private. You know what I'm saying? And you know, and I've done that.
Yeah.
You notice when I got married, you know, and you know, my wife, she's in law school and everything. I want to give a shout out to my Isha Princess Etana, because she's really, you know,
Peace and
she's really
blessings to
doing
her.
it.
Beautiful sister. Peace and blessings to her.
Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you. You know, and she's really moving in that accord. And I was looking at your situation. I said, man, he's still with that system. You know what I'm saying? I just want to say I'm proud of you, because a lot of brothers and sisters get into relationships and they don't know how to course their life. But you can see that the woman that you have is a very strong woman, because I can see it through your growth and development. And
Yes,
I
sir.
just want to just give you your flowers now. You know that you're a living example of how a son of Israel should treat a daughter of Zion. I want to commend you on that, to the Rabbah, my Lord.
If I may,
So,
if I may just say this as a moment of transparency, I'm big on being transparent. This January makes 19 years that I've been, and it hasn't been a still calm ocean for 19 years. You know, we've had our struggles, we've had our issues, but I'm very thankful of the Creator for those struggles, and for every single stumbling block, as it were, that we've had to face, because it has only made us stronger as individuals and collectively as well. And so, one of the things that I am big on is keep my family and personal business separated. When I do interviews, I tell interviewers, you can ask me anything, but what we
that's
not
right.
going to discuss is my family. That's off limits. Because
That's a
if
fact.
somebody was to jump out the window and say some words about my family, I got to tell you this. I'm really ready to lose it all. I'm really ready to lose it all. So rather than go there, I just stay clear of the conversation.
Absolutely. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I just wanted you to know that real men, we take notice of that. And and my father always said you could tell a man by the way his wife moved. And usually you see aristocrats and those in power, they have round table dinners and they bring their nashim, they women, and that right there is going to determine the men at the round table if they're going to fuck with you or not.
That's
You know
true.
what I'm saying? And I learned a lot from the way you moved when it came to your Isha. And as you can see, like my Isha don't have no Facebook, no nothing. Her whole thing is, this is my family right here, and this is what I'm gonna focus on. And once in the blue, I'll throw a picture. I learned that. I just want to let you know I learned that from you, man. I throw up a little picture here and there, and that's it.
That's it.
But yeah, it's definitely an honor. So let me ask you something, Zion, before we start this PowerPoint.
Hey, real quick, Mighty Hebrew. My apologies. I just resent you a link. Could you please send that to him? Maybe that link might work better. He said that one wasn't working.
Okay, so you want me to send this link to him that I just seen you sent me?
Yes.
Okay, let me get it to him.
Please.
Okay.
And you getting ready to ask the Moray a question before the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I wanted to know when this first came out, this whole situation, how did it make you feel, or how do you feel now? Do you feel like this is a part of something that's going to be much bigger, or just a feel of a moment right now? Because for me, I feel as though this is not a feel of a moment. This is something that's for real, that I see that's going to grow more and more and more. What do you say about that, Zia? What you think, Rabbi?
If I could be bold, blunt, and as straightforward as people know me to be, I would say that what we're witnessing right now from Kyrie Irving, right, him using his mouth, his notoriety, his speech, his voice, and what we're seeing from Kanye using those mediums as well, should be humbling to each and every single one of us as leaders. Sometimes as leaders, we think that the Creator is going to do it through us and through us alone, not realizing that at times even we slack. At times even we may not be doing enough, but his glory don't stop. So he'll raise up someone somewhere and make sure that this thing continues. Because I read somewhere that he called Koresh, Cyrus, his Mashiach, his anointed one. And I'm sure there were Levites that were sitting in Babylon and were saying to themselves, how does heathen get to construct and direct the rebuilding of the temple? Why wouldn't the Creator do it through one of us who are already established, who have already built renown and names? And I'll tell you what the answer is. Because at times, even we as leaders, we get caught up in our own issues. And we have many issues that we can get caught up with as leaders and as elders. It happens to the best of us. But one thing we should always know, the show don't stop, and the glory of Yah Most High never stops. So I am humbled to see a younger brother, Kyrie, be the voice. I am humbled to see Kanye, who we thought was so distal to this movement, to be those voices that many of us would have thought would have came from us. But then, you know, it's all cyclic, because we know that those brothers were listening to us. And so we should also feel the gratitude from the Creator that even though he may not have directly used us, our face on the forefront, it was our voice that inspired both of those brothers. And we know this for a fact because we're in conversation with them. And so it is always a beautiful thing, and even a gauge of humility to know that even if I am not used directly towards the glory of the Creator, any hand that I can put in, even if that hand is a hidden hand, I should be more than willing to do, because none of us should be doing this because our name has to be in the lights. That's where we go wrong. None of us should be doing this, or I'll come through, but make sure, on the flyer, my picture got to be real big. No, you got to be willing to do this, even if your name is not called. So what I have to say, my brother, is as beautiful as this is, it's also a humbling moment for us that we should always be reminded that the Creator will get his glory.
Facts. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. I sent that to him too.
Okay, good, good. So listen, while we waiting on the doctor to come, let's do this real quick because you guys are some powerful brothers, man. And so what I did was I reached out to my community, people who were getting involved and actually brought me in to, understand a little bit more about you brothers, right? I brought him here because he had some questions. Mighty Hebrew, he saw your interview about the cosmogenesis, anthropogenesis that we did on the channel.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
everybody talking about that joint.
Come on, you see. So he was like,
That
"Bro,
joint.
I need to talk to my brother here. Here he is, right here, Julius Twan. What's up, my brother?
What's going on, brothers? What's going on, brothers?
Peace,
Shalom,
peace.
shalom. Shalom, shalom.
Man,
Yeah,
just before I even begin, man, I just want to commend you guys on the research. One, the research, the time it took to collectively put all of that information together, and the way you guys deliver it is on a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? I
Okay.
guess they would say, the best way to praise God is through art, and it's funny growing up, I had art appreciation, advanced placements, and it would always be us looking at this art in its history form and the picture that is being painted and why it's being painted. So I just commend you guys on how you guys deliver that, that message and its authenticity. It's crazy because not even knowing who you guys are, just when I heard the anthropology, that first bit of knowledge that you dropped and you were kind of talking about the Ashanti tribe, I kind of cross-referenced it with another thing that Zion Lexx was doing about the Kente, and I'm like, oh nah, these guys got it on point. You see what I'm saying? To a T, because these are stories that's been passed down generations and generations in my family, being an Ashanti, from Ghana, the Akan tribe. So it's like this Hebrew talk is real heavy, you know what I mean? But a lot of people don't understand it because it comes from a Judaism kind of form and like it has a white face on it. So it's like automatically like, nah, bro, I don't even want, you know what I mean? I don't even want to talk about that. But when you get behind the words and the linguistics of how, a lot of these Ghanaian words and terms are actually like Hebrew breakoffs, it kind of like amazes me that you guys are kind of like directly on point. So I just wanted to kind of commend you guys and just say, keep on building. And, the fight is being fought. And like through what you guys are saying, like we're actually putting it into, action. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you
Yeah.
very much, brother. Much love to you. It's always humbling to even know or hear that people are aware of us, because as I'm sure there's minutes in an hour and and time in a day, you have so many people that fill YouTube with podcasts and with shows, and it's just humbling to know that we are being heard and we are reaching people. So I thank you, man, because when it comes to people like the Mighty Hebrew and myself, and I'm speaking of us because we're on the platform using us as examples. When we come and we do live streams, it's 2-3 hours easy, and I know it's not easy to sit through that. So I really, really respect you taking the time to say this because, believe it or not, it means something to us.
Nah, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing the utmost amazing work. You feel what I'm saying? You guys are bringing light to people, bringing light to heritage, bringing light to history, which is huge. Just to interject from the last conversation you guys had with the rabbi, I felt like he definitely knows his history. You see what I'm saying? He knows his history, but there were certain parts of the history that he didn't want to kind of stand on and highlight, which I understand and I get it because like how we as black people, we don't want to put our own black people down and you see what I'm saying? In front of the camera, I guess you could kind of be smart to understand that, hey man, maybe, as we are getting older, we kind of do know this information, but we don't always want to, put light to it because like you were saying with the slave owners and how they, they were actually Jewish and there's actual recorded fact and you know what I mean? Like this is stuff you can't turn away from. I'm even sorry if you're saying the word. I don't want to get you flagged or nothing. You know what I mean? Brewish. When I say brewish, you see what I'm saying? But yeah. So I just want to, you know, tap in and keep the conversation going, and you know, ask a couple questions that, I mean, maybe you guys might have the answer to on two levels. One on the cosmogenesis and, you know, anthropology of the Hebrew origins, just kind of getting that whole races understanding with the Aryan races and what time frame we're in, because I feel like that might be something that's used in a knowledge that was known and understood in the back rooms. That's kind of like what they stand on and what a lot of people stand on to kind of do the evil things that's done. But that's one thing. And then just on the flip side of what new information can we consume to stay on the same type of levels as an Elon Musk would be, to where, you know, they extract the natural resources and they're able to actually add value to this, because, you know, Ghana's going through that whole thing right now with the cocoa and not trying to sell it
Right.
to the elite. So see what I'm saying? So it's like we at the forefront of that. How can we tap into that ancient knowledge and connect it now with what's going on now? Because that kind of seems to be what they stand on, and really, you
That's
know.
well.
Show.
I can first and foremost, I want to give all praise and none. No, before I even say that, were you still talking?
Nah, you good to go.
Okay, okay. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to Yahweh, the supreme intellect of the universe, the supreme architect of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Um, there were a multiplicity of questions, and I'm gonna try to crystallize it down. First, I want to commend you for your intelligence and your 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 mind by being able to see and to understand what you're tapping into. I developed Hebrew cosmogenesis and Hebrew anthropogenesis because I felt as though it wasn't many people within the Hebrew Israelite paradigm that was answering the challenge as it pertained to answering certain questions that were being put out there amongst the Black conscious community, as well as those that deal with the Kemetic school of thought. The only one that was answering the challenge was people like myself and Zion Lexx, you know, and you have a couple of others here and there, but we were like the main two that came with something that would be considered unorthodox, so to say. Hebrew cosmogenesis is an expression of Hebrew culture from a cosmological standpoint. I wanted to show that we were older than 6,000 years, and that the 6,000 years was something that came from Bishop Ushers, and he was from Ireland, and he is the one that attached the 6,000 year creation with the Bible, but it wasn't necessarily in the Bible. So where I acknowledge, or what we acknowledge here at the Mighty Hebrew University, is that the Hebrews go back to an ancient group of Hebrews known as the Yadavas. And when you start to study up on the Yadava society in Tamil Nadu, or what you call the Indus Valley, stretching from the Indus Valley to the Mesopotamian Valley, you'll see that there was a long history, and our history was determined by cycles known as Yuga. So what I did was I started to study the Yuga cycles, and I started to study certain Eastern and Far Eastern understandings as it pertains to the number 7. You know, you got, you know, 7 planes, 7 dimensions of the mind, 7 root races, 7 sub races, 7 branch races. And I've seen that all of them dealt with a cycle in the season. So as I developed, I started to take each day by looking at it as a containment of life, by studying the archaic Hebrew symbols, or the Sinaitic pictorial Hebrew that has naturally, because we're social, it was influenced, not created, but it was influenced by Megunetta. So in our environment when we was in Egypt, But as we develop, it took other dimensions. So each day, from a Hebrew cosmological perspective, is trillions of years, starting from 311 trillion, 40 billion years, trickling down to 100,000 years ago. Then Hebrew anthropogenesis is the study of the Hebrews from ascent to descent. We at the Mighty Hebrew University teach that the Hebrews are actually an incarnation coming from another plane by the way of Merkaba light, known as the Ramorhos, going back 5.5 million, trickling down to the Aryan root epic, not the Aryan race or the so-called white race. That's all. That's not real.
Right.
Aryan is only a Sanskrit word that means noble. So we are what you would consider in the noble age. So now you're starting to talk post-Diluvian or after the flood. Now you're talking the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, which I date 9,564 BCE. So Hebrew cosmogenesis is the cosmological understanding Hebrews view the cosmos, and then Hebrew anthropogenesis is the study of our culture. Where if you're talking linguistics, if you're talking, language, you're talking art, dance, food, how we build, how we commune with one another socially. So I developed that, and I wanted to even put a more impact to it. So I repatriated back to Africa. I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I live in Tanzania, East Africa. I also live in Dimona, Israel, Northeastern Africa. So every 3 months, I stay in Tanzania for 3 months. Then I go to Dimona and stay for a month. So it's 3 months, 1 month, 3 months, 1 month, 3 months. So that's right now I'm in Tanzania, East Africa. And what I wanted to do is study up on the tribes that are on the ground here. And I used a man by the name of Adad the Danite as a map to see if the words that he said aligned by the way of being on ground in East Africa, hunting out these tribes that Adad the Danite said existed during this time. And guess what? You have tribes in East Africa that are Israelites. And that's what made the Hebrew anthropogenesis even stronger. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe you are the one that wanted to know more about Israelites in West Africa, like Ghana and stuff like that. I'll pass that on to Zion Lexx and
I see him in the archives over there, like
where's Dr. Bain Tsedek? Dr. Bain Tsedek is an expert when it comes to dealing with West African languages and showing the Hebrew linguistics and the customs of it and aligning with them. And Zion Lexx is definitely an expert in West African Hebrew culture. So the West African Hebrews, pass that question to Zion Lexx. If you want to tackle
the knowledge, but under my I'm known to understand that they will call it tree. The tweet, TWI. It's from
the tweet.
I mean that they're trying to say that that's like the original language.
Yeah, there's a thing going on right now on ground in East Africa and West Africa, and along with the Israelites in the Americas. And I think it really started from the newer generation on social media. The prominent elders, we have what was called land conference, land conferences. And our elders were going back and forth to Ghana and Nigeria and Cape Coast since the 60s. Dealing with the Israelites there, and there was always this brotherly love, sisterly love. When the social media era came, it became combative in a sense of The fuel came from the One West camps having no acknowledgement to Africa. So when that came, it caused the disdain with Israelites in Africa, mainly in West Africa. So as this disdain grew, forms of nationalism in West Africa started to develop. And the development was, we are original. Hebrew is not the original language. This land is really Sumer. Like, you have certain Israelites in West Africa that believe everything you see in Northeastern Africa, falsely called the Middle East, is really in West Africa. But all these things develop based upon that tension with the Israelites in America, the Israelites in West Africa, and the beef. And anybody that been watching social media, they've been seeing this over the years brewing. And in the process, doctrine is made out of it. So now there's an argument not only with the Israelites from America and West Africa, but there are actually arguments within West Africa itself of who's a Hebrew and who's not. You may have Israelites, let's say the Igbo, they may deny the Akan, and they come up with these theories of trying to disprove. But we know, once you start to study up on the Akan, when you start to study up on the Yoruba, when you start to study up on the Igbo, and all, these are all the same people. They're the same people, but they was just broken down by the way of demarcation stations. But when we start to study before the demarcation stations, these were all the same people, and they all have traditions that say that they're not from that region. Now, I'm not saying everybody in West Africa is an Israelite. That would be absurd to say. There are other nations and other tribes that are not Israelites, but you literally have tribes that descend back to Canaan. You have tribes there that descend back to Edom. You have tribes that literally descend back to the Babylonians. And guess what? You have tribes in West Africa that descend back to Kemet. For instance, you have the Watusi. They're a mixture of Israelite and Cometian. You have the Dogon, straight Cometian. So this brewing, and remember the Creator said, "For I will scatter you amongst all the nations of the earth." So that being the case, that means when we go to these regions, there will be people there. So to say all that is to say, there's a growth and development of our people all over right now. And remember, the war would start within first, but now we're cleaning house. There are Israelites in West Africa. There are Israelites in East Africa. There are Israelites in Central Africa, South Africa. I've seen them with my eyes. They, as a matter of fact, and I'm gonna close this, I'm gonna land it. Right now, Disney is being sued by a group of Israelites in Mount Kenya known as the Kikula tribe, Kikuyu. These are Israelites from the tribe of Asher, that's a part of the northern kingdom of Israel, that came into Kenya during the Assyrian occupation. And they live in Mount Kenya area. And the representative of that community is a man by the name of Ambassador St. Michael, who was basically initiated within a system, and he's an ambassador to these brothers and sisters. Now, these brothers and sisters have the story of Wakanda and the Black Panther within their oral traditions. We're not guessworking, we're talking facts. This is online. They're actually in court right now. They went to court, they had a hearing, and the agreement was they wouldn't make a sequel. They wouldn't continue on to tell certain secrets of this specific community. But as the Euro Gentile does, he double crossed them. Now you get Wakanda, you know, or Black Panther 2. So now they're literally in court right now suing Disney for stealing their oral traditions. So I just wanted to put that out there. And they are actually Israelites that were a part of the Northern Kingdom being exiled.
That's crazy, like how you ended it on like the theft aspect, because it's kind of like what I was saying with the Elon Musk. It's like, what type of information has to be consumed? Because I see, like, when we study Jew, like their plight, and you know, the pain that they went through, and the stuff that was going on with the Russian hatred and stuff like that, and they migrate to America, then migrate to California, and
Right.
take that Hollywood aspect with the 6 companies. How and I see how you guys are kind of moving towards the Israel aspect. What type of knowledge do we need to tap into? Because it's some type of, it's like Elon Musk didn't just go to anywhere. He went to a specific spot, and these spots are somewhat not governed by United States, but they're in America. You know what I mean?
I understand.
What's going on? Like, tap in.
Well, what I'll do is I'll pass it to Zion Lex, because we was on West Africa, and we also have Dr. Bain Zedek. Can you hear me, Dr. Bain Zedek? Dr. Bain Zedek? I see that he just came in. Can you hear me, Dr. Bain Zedek? Take your mute off. Dr. Bain Zedek, can you hear me? We see you though. We can see you. You'll go after Zion Lex. Whatever's going on, you might have to do something. Dr. Bain Zedek, is his mute on? Mikael?
Yeah, I think what it is he's having some connectivity issues. So let's try to work that out in the background. And let's do this, Juice, because they getting ready to do a presentation real quick.
Okay.
I know we want to give Brother Zion Lex the opportunity to respond.
Yeah, I want him to respond.
No, we need to get on to the thing, right? Okay, so let's go ahead
and
do that.
I want Zion Lex to respond to the young brother. Then we get to the presentation.
Okay, all right, and then we can do that. All right, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Chief Abdia. You on mute, Chief.
Thank you, mute.
Zion Lex, you on mute.
Shalom, shalom. You can hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
All right. Yeah, my apologies. Could you repeat your question? I was doing something behind the scenes, pulling something up.
Pretty much. I mean, it wasn't a question. It was more or less like, as someone that wants to do research and wants action, what is something that we can do? Because I see, like, the Hebrew, the mighty Hebrew was explaining the 3 heads of, you know, aspects to go towards Israel. What type of information can we start to consume that kind of reflects somewhat of a competition with an Elon Musk mindset?
Of course, my answer is going to be deeply controversial, but I would say connecting with the more esoteric areas of understanding the Torah and the Tanakh. For instance, many of the discoveries and breakthroughs in science that are attributed to people like Isaac Newton and Einstein are all or both individuals who were deeply Kabbalistic in their understanding. Many of them were deep Kabbalists, and when they made several breakthroughs scientifically, it was in part because of their Kabbalistic lore and understanding, meaning that when you get into certain Kabbalistic texts, for instance, if we're dealing with natural science, an area of Kabbalah that would go heavy in that, but also very esoteric, is Maaseh Bereshit, which refers to the account of creation, right? And one of the works that you would go to is the Sefer Yetzirah, as well as the Hechalot. So our ancestors were very privy to much of this information. And so the way that if I were to respond as potent as I can, the best way that our community can match the wit and expertise of, let's say, an Elon Musk is first and foremost to tap into the more esoteric areas of understanding our own texts, because you'll find that there is nothing in this world more layered, more concise, and more enigmatic than the text of the Torah itself. And our ancestors understood that like an onion, layer by layer by layer, right? Because it reveals much truth and much depth. So a person like myself who is deeply steeped in the oral tradition, whether it be the Midrashic oral tradition, whether it be the Kabbalistic oral tradition, or whether it be the Halakhic oral tradition, that's something that I tap into and that I teach, because I know it's from having a foundation in those ideas that we can begin to harness greater truths and uncover much hidden wisdom that was once very prevalent among our ancestors, but through the sands of time and through the galut, through the exile, we've lost touch, lost sight and insight with much of those ideas. And in order to reconnect with it, we have to reconnect with the entire fabric of our tradition, right? I say the entire fabric because the written text of the Tanakh is just one aspect of the Hebrew tradition. What a lot of people seldomly realize and often forget is that before the Torah and the Tanakh came into written form, it was orally transmitted. How does Moses tell the stories of Genesis, a time where he never lived?
Right.
Oral traditions gave him that story. The very name of the book of Chronicles in Hebrew, Chronicles in English, in Hebrew is called Divrei Hayamim, the ancient words. Why? Because much of what's told in the book of Chronicles is directly from the oral tradition. That's why the book of Chronicles offers more depth and insight on the Judite kings more than the book of Kings, because the book of Chronicles was directly from the oral tradition itself, and the oral tradition is always more detailed. For instance, I'm holding up here the Tel Dan inscription, right? Not sure if you could read it, but this is the Tel Dan inscription, which reads in Paleo Hebrew, Beit Dawid, right? The house of David, right? And this is one of the archaeological items that we use to verify that King David is a historical person, right? In the same vein, Amir, in the same vein that the Narmer palette is used to verify and validate. Go inside that closet and get my bag with the artifacts. In the same way that Narmer is deemed authentically historical, right? Because we have an artifact that bears his name. So I'm saying that to say, we know David's name throughout the book of Samuel and throughout the book of Kings. It's spelled Dalet Wa Dalet. But only in the book of Chronicles it contains an extra letter, Dalet Wav Yod Dalet. Why is that? When David came into kingship, and this understanding comes from the oral tradition, he reorganized and restructured the Levitical line. There used to be 14 watches among the priestly shifts. When David came in, that 14 went to 24. Why is that interesting? David's name in Hebrew equals 14. Dalet is 4, Wav is 6, and Dalet is 4. That's 14. When you add a Yod, which is the extra letter you find for his name in the book of Chronicles, it yields 24. So that's interesting that first and foremost, David's name, as it's normally spelled in the Tanakh, it has a numerical equivalency of 14. And in the book of Chronicles, it's always spelled with an extra letter, Yod, which brings it to 24. And we know that the original priestly Levitical watch was 14. But when David came on the scene, that shift went to 24, all in line with prophecy, because David was to be, even as Melchizedek was a priest king. And so again, there's a lot going on in the text. And it's always important to revert back to that oral tradition.
Talk about it.
Hallelujah. You know, you got to bring the Rabi in. Dr. Bain Tsedek, before I start the presentation, no, before you, anything else you want to say, Zion? Okay. Dr. Bain Tsedek, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me clearly?
Ah, there we go. I'm gonna paraphrase it. This is the brother that Lord Mikael was telling me about. He wanted to know more about, like, you know how you do the linguistics and you show the connections with the Yoruba, the Akan, all them being connected with the Hebrews. Just give a brief demonstration of us being able to use the genetics of language and how it connects to the Hebrew people. Just a brief synopsis before I start the presentation, if possible.
First, let me acknowledge all the great ones on the panel: More Zion, Lexx, Nasik, and Brother Julius. More Zion set the precedence, so I'm just gonna continue add some components to what he just shared. He mentioned oral tradition. And when you go into West Africa amongst our Hebrew brethren, the Yoruba people, their oral tradition is referred to as pataki. And the pataki are the stories pertaining to how creation came into existence, the Orisha, the Elohim, and life variabilities relative to moralities, etc. So all those stories are encoded in what is called the pataki. Mm-hmm. Now, when you go to Psalms 119, verse 130, you find the exact Hebrew cognate for pataki. That word is patak, and it's used in the same exact context. It says, the utterance, thy declaration brings forth light, gives being, discernment to the simple or to the fool, to the petim. So that word there, patak, is not just, is more than just utterance. That statement is actually defining the word patak. Now, when you do a numerical value, the gematria of the word patak, when you round out and comes back to 11, which give us the Hebrew letter kaf. And kaf is an initial for two Hebrew words. I think Morey can assist me with the second one. You have, I believe it's Pohel and Koach, the letter kaf. So the kaf implies unlocking that which has been enfolded and revealing the secrets to give you understanding so you can make correct decisions, so you can understand the laws that governs all of life variabilities. And that word there is patak, and that's what it means. And the Yoruba use the same exact word, pataki, and it is their oral tradition. Just like Morey said, Hebrew culture originally oral tradition. So I just wanted to add that component. And that verse is Psalms 119, verse 130. You see that word, patak.
Dope. Hallelujah. Dope. Hallelujah.
I appreciate you guys just even, and you know, I know you guys got the presentation, so I want you guys to get back to that, but just chiming in, like, you know, I definitely hear you guys, and I would love to know more about the Akan connection and just like how you guys are just breaking down, you know, the oral transition, the traditions of creation, and how he just connected it to utilizing that to, I guess you can say, go into action on, you know, being able to be commercially connected to the people, because I see like we always have the knowledge, but we don't utilize the knowledge to commercially just keep us in the loop. In this world, it seems like that's what you got to do. Like the same way you got to TV and we wear clothes. It's like there's certain norms that we just have to do. And I love what you guys are doing by being able to bring this oral tradition into 2020 HD clarity. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Toda Rabbah. So without further ado, this PowerPoint I put together, it's not going to be a thing where I'm just building myself. I have two masterminds, and I purposely put this PowerPoint together so all three of us can build on the PowerPoint. That's how I did it. So, and I know we're here to talk about the rising of Hebrew Israelite sovereign nationalism throughout Africa and throughout the Americas. And one of the things that are being brought to us is, what information do we have to prove that we're Israel? And it kills me that no other people on the planet have to prove who they are except us. Zion Lexx, are you ready? Or are you ready, Tsedek? Who's ready? Are you ready for you got it, Zion?
Okay.
Yup. So I'll put the PowerPoint in both of y'all inboxes. I think it starts with a picture of Rabbi Wentworth A. Matthews. That's where the PowerPoint starts. And the reason why I brought him up first and the other elders that's going to be shown is because as Zion Lexx came, Chief Abdiel came, giving honor and respects to our Zakwanim that paved the way for us to speak today. So we have to continuously line ourselves with Torah Constitution. And we find this in the 32nd chapter of Deuteronomy, starting at verse 7 and 8, that we are to seek the elders. Even when we're told when a hoary hair comes in, we are to rise. So I want to rise first, giving all honor and praise to Yah and to the Zakwanim. So whenever you're ready, Zion, if you could put that on the screen, that'll be great. Because Zion Lexx, he know all that technology. Right now, give a shout out to my daughter, Princess Shemaya. She's in training right now for the Olympics, you know what I mean, here in Tanzania. And, you know, some of my equipment is at our other house, so I don't have the means right now to put it up on the screen. How we doing, Chief Abdiel?
Give me about 60 seconds.
No problem, no problem. But that was some real good questions that the young brother brought forth. But yeah, this PowerPoint, oh man, all of us is going to build on each of the PowerPoints, because one thing I'm going to be using within the PowerPoint is the 2 to 3 witnesses. Because right now it's myself, you, Dr. Tsedek, Chief Abdiel, aka Zion Lexx, and there's going to be others that are going to reveal without a shadow of a doubt who the children of Israel is. And what I'm going to use is academic scholars that are respected in our communities and see what they have to say. And we're going to build on why they said these things, because it sounds good just to read it. But when you have other people that is listening to what is being read and shown as a source of reference, and y'all build on it, it takes another broader, it becomes more broader for the listening audience. You know, it's, yeah, I can bring up a Dr. John Henry Clark, but when we expound on what he said, you know, because one thing Dr. John Henry Clark, which is like the granddaddy of Afrocentric thought, he said we have to study migrational patterns. We have to. So for him to say that, in his research, he's seen that it was imperative to study the migrations of nations so we'll know who these people are today. So I'm ready. Also, anybody want to enroll in the Mighty Hebrew University, they can at www.tmhu.org. Also, I know Zion Lexx does classes. If his information can be put up, please put his information up so I can read to the people. I know that he does Kabbalistic classes. He does Hebrew language, man. Zion Lexx wears so many hats. You know, you're going to get it all if you go over there. You know, and I'm just, again, man, I'm definitely proud that he's still here, standing the test of time. I'm glad Dr. Tsedek is here, you know, bringing that fire when it comes to showing and proving who we are and the connections with certain African tribes and nations in Africa, proving who they are. So where we at, Zion?
Facebook is giving me an issue to log in right now because I never log in from my laptop, always from my phone. And they have these new, you got to do like a 2-step thing in order to come on if they don't recognize your device. So that's what I'm having an issue with right now.
Okay. What about you, Dr. Bain? Can you do it? Dr. Bain Tsedek? It seems like he on freeze mode right now. So Dr. Bain on freeze mode. Because I mean, I have it, but it's different when.
You can see me?
So
Yes.
So
Okay.
if
All right.
if the Dr. Ben can't do it, and let's just give Zion a second, and if he's able to do it, then we can move forward. If not, then we might have to come back because, you know, I want you to
Right.
be able to get that off. You know what I mean? Because it's a powerful one, and you know, so. But again, maybe let's play a song real quick. Can we do that real
Yeah,
fast?
off my album.
Can we
Play,
do that?
play, yeah,
Oh,
play number 5, 9 Eat the Bean. Journey to the
okay.
Dark Side of the Moon, new
I
album.
think. See, we already queued up 1 or 2 already because I'm kind of working
You already
remotely.
queued? All right, then
I'm
throw
working
something on.
remotely. Yeah.
Throw
So
something on.
hold on. Yeah, let's get that up. Okay, we can roll with that.
You find all of them are waiting for somebody to come and get them. Mm-hmm. You have to free yourself. Bob Marley got that song, you have to free yourself from mental slavery. None of us can change the time. When I realized that we can change the time, because it's already been set in motion, all we got to do is apply what we know. And that's what I've been doing. So.
Stevie Wonder.
What about him?
Okay. I know from the information from the elders, they were saying, if I'm not mistaken, his nanny or somebody was a part from Detroit and wound up going to Demona.
I met him in 1973 when she used to take care of little Stevie. And she went to Israel with me and her husband. Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. Because I seen Stevie Wonder visit over there to Demona.
Stevie to Israel and performed in Israel. Yeah, right. I took Barry White, the Neville brothers, Whitney and Bobby. We've been pushing.
That was all over the news. Absolutely.
So I ain't been ashamed to lift up us as a people.
Asiel, the redeeming angels here. Prince Asiel, Prime Minister is here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Prince Asiel, Sufferbomb is here. Prince Asiel, the redeeming angels here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationals, risen. Heavy mental, break metal from the devil. In darkness, sparks of light touch hearts. In America's ghetto jungle, sounds of thunder. Cold ears like gun claps, bodies rumble. When one gang bangs, demon babies incarnate. Omens from UFO clouds beyond 8 Mile. War in heaven, Mikael as Asiel, birthed in Jerusalem, the mighty Hebrew from birth scene, the poison from the serpent's needle that perceived divine beings from Eden, known as Elohim. Rambo, first blood, being redeemed. Adamic seeds from amongst the trees that was deceived in the garden. Kakma was lost as we travel from Lumeria, our birthplace, for desert roads and stony days, drowning in waters like Jason. Crystal Lake, United Snakes, a death place. Prophesied in Deuteronomy 28. No place will be safe to Asiel reign. Earth to reign, Metatron. From celestial to the physical plane, as we move supreme with our own team. Prince Asiel, the redeeming angels here. Prince Asiel, Prime Minister is here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Prince Asiel, Sufferbomb is here. Prince Asiel, the redeeming angels here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationals, risen. Heavy mental, break metal from the devil. Beware the stairs, people under the stairs. Lying there for freedom, for a Hebraic heir. Holding the scepter in a golden chair. Nasi, Asiel, Malek, the throne of King David, sovereign, national established. Signs of lion paws and tassels. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationals, risen. Hit the western mind like a comet. Lies I vomit, Torah constitution we follow. Solomon, I go into the souls of men to see the real from the fake in them. Asiel be the unstained glass, passion. Your Gentile oppression, from eastern to western through all scepters. Interceptor by way of prison spectrums. Raise up cycles, is electric. The brotherhood elevated, separating infinite. The oneness within, be no end. Remember, Israel, we on the rise for all mankind. Prince Asiel, the redeeming angels here. Prince Asiel, Prime Minister is here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Prince Asiel, Sufferbomb is here. Prince Asiel, the redeeming angels here. Prince Asiel, Hamoshiach is here. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationals, risen. Heavy mental, break metal from the devil. The devil.
And we know the one thing that is necessary now is the you and I-ism. That is the key of the future of the black man, black woman in America. And the destiny of the black world rests solely with the direction in which the black man, black woman in America take. The international ramifications that Jesse Jackson spoke to with the PLO question goes way beyond that. Way beyond that. Because once we involve ourselves with a solution outside of America, then there are keys that are not controlled by the enemies of our people within the confines of America. If Africa is the continent that is richest and represents 80% of the world's known resources, and if Black America is that nation of African people that represent the intellectual resources of the world, it's a perfect marriage that must take place. And this is what we're talking about developing here. As we organize nationally, we are organizing internationally. For those are the keys for the total survival of our people. So this is what we bring to this conference.
Yeah, that was dope. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Are you there, Dr. Bang? You on mute. Take your mute off. Yeah.
It's not allowing me to sign into my my messenger. Also, I'm having issues.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see. But you know what? I see what they doing. I'm gonna do it. Oh, I'm gonna do it old school. I'm gonna do a little bit, not much, but I'll come back and do this PowerPoint. But I'm gonna bring up what I'm gonna do is, you know, the nation, the God and earth have something called show and prove. Each one teach one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cite a quotation from a book, show the book, read it, and then we just expound a little bit. You know what I'm saying? All of us, each of us, and see what they say, what we say, or they say. Can we do that? Are y'all with that?
I'm with that.
All right, you with that, Zion?
Can,
Zion
can,
Lex?
can, 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 can.
All right, we gonna take it old school. You know what I mean? Sometimes. What about you, Dr. Bain? You with that?
I'm with that. I'm with that. I'm with that.
All right. Okay, so what I did, right, is this, again, giving all honors to all the elders. What I did is this, if y'all can see this. This is a Torah scroll. All right. Now, I put this up here on purpose, right? Because the Torah teaches us that one man can accuse you of any form of iniquity, lies, whatever, without the eyewitness accounts of 2 to 3 witnesses. Are we all in agreement to that?
Yes.
Can, yes.
Okay, we all agree with that. So when I go to the Hebrew text of Deuteronomy 19:15, and you know I ain't gonna be on no show with Zion Lex, and I don't put that Hebrew up there because you gotta put that Hebrew up there with Zion. So I just wanted to read. It says, one witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin, and any sin that he sinneth, which is inclusive of she, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall a matter be established. We all of us agree with that. Even in the court of law, when the district attorney wants to diminish your character, they need witnesses. Okay?
Can.
Okay, I just want to make sure we all in agreement. So I want to go to Dr. Yosef A.A. Ben Yokanayan's book, African Origins of the Major Western Religions. But before I go into that, I want to start, and because Zion Lex is here and he's an expert in this, I want to go to Velas Goran's student's letter to the lost tribes of Israel. Now, I want to go to the Talmud itself and let them say where the Israelites went. You talk eyewitnesses. You need 2 to 3 witnesses to establish a matter. So when they say here about the 10 tribes, or it says, who dwell across the river, Sivatyan, also known as Shambat-Yam or Yon, and who pledge alliance to the king of Israel, who sits upon a mighty throne and who rules over the 10 tribes, whose settlement is in the land beyond the rivers of Cush, right? Who camp according to their banners, the tribe of Dan, of Naphtali, and of Gad. Now that's the stop. Now, Zion Lex, don't the Igbos teach that they from the tribe of Gad? A lot of them?
Many of them do discuss that they're from the half tribe of Gad. Yes.
Right. And we have here beyond the rivers of they literally got it here, beyond the rivers of Nubia, parenthesis, Cush, whose camp according to their banners, the tribe of Dan, of Naphtali, of Gad, and Asher, the tribe of Issachar, who understand the movements of the celestial bodies, constantly involved in Torah study, and the tribe of Zebulun. This is what they say, right? Then you go to the Sanhedrin, right? 94. The grammar asks, to where did Sennacherib exile the 10 tribes? Mar Zucra says he exiled them to Africa. And Rabbi Hanana says to the Silo Mountains. Drop down. Israel spoke in disparagement of Edith's Israel. So the whole point we have in Sanhedrin 94a, the William Davidson Talmud, saying that the Israelites went to Africa. Zion, you are expert in the Talmud. Does it say this in the Talmud? Oh, it looks like you put something up.
Yeah, I sure have the source up. So not only does it say it in the Talmud, but I'm not sure if everyone remembers, I was the one who originally brought this information out. I've been studying the Talmud since the 90s. And so I'm familiar with Talmudic literature and what it has to say. So I've been aware of these sources for over 3 decades now, right? Going on 30 years. And so we broke the internet, myself and Chief Uzael, back in 2014 when I did a video on YouTube, and I brought out for the first time in the Israelite community the mention that there's a rabbi by the name of the Vilna Gaon. When he died, his students wrote letters to the 10 lost tribes of Israel in West Africa, asking that they bequeath Europeans as rabbis, or that they offer them what we affectionately refer to as semika, ritual ordination. So what's interesting is, if I describe myself to a European today and I say that I'm a rabbi, they're going to say, but you're black. Some of them. The rest are going to say, who gave you semika? Who ordained you? Right? Who gave you the authority? What makes you think you could be that? When what's interesting is what's on our screen right now stands as proof that every single European rabbi became a rabbi first by having Africans in West Africa bestow that authority of ritual ordination on them. That's what the letter to the 10 lost tribes of Israel by the Vilna Gaon is. Now keep in mind, Rabbi Harry Rosenberg is a descendant of the Vilna Gaon.
That's a fact. That's true.
So how interesting is all of this, right? So you know, for me, it's of great pleasure when I see more and more Israelites share the Talmud, because when I first brought this out 20 years ago, people didn't even want to hear it because it came from the Talmud. So I'm very grateful that today our brothers and our sisters aren't afraid to go into the Talmud, to go into these sources. So we're doing a marvelous job, and we just have to continue.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, and that's that right there. And I'm glad, and you can say something too, Dr. Bay. This is how I like this bill right here. This is perfect. You know, you see how Zion just threw up a sword. Now, that is interesting, Zion, because that actually disqualifies them for ever saying we not Israel. because not only do we have a living descendant today, which is Rabbi Harry Rosenberg of the Gion, and the Gion literally wrote these letters to Israelites in West Africa, correct? Okay,
That's right.
so that means technically many weren't lost, and they knew exactly who these people were to write
That's right. That's
to
right.
these people to get
That's right.
the bruch, the brachim, the blessing from the Rabbeinu. You see what I'm saying? So that being the case, then they can't even argue. They don't even have a leg to stand.
That's right.
My question is, can y'all hear me?
Can.
All right. My question is,
This brings me to the
Nasik, you there?
origins of the major Western religion. I hear something. Y'all back in? Okay. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I was
So-
asking a question, Nasik.
What was that?
Yeah, I was asking a question in regards to the quote that we discussed in here.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the prophetic correlation in terms of what role did Esau play in terms of assisting another people to usurp our identity. And
Gang.
I'm going to also tag that with Deuteronomy 31, verse 21. It is Zion Lexx who brought that also to our attention, that a people who is not a people or a vile people will move us to jealousy by usurping our identity. And my question then is, what role did Esau then play to assist these people who assume our birthright and are trying to deny us of this, i.e. Rosenberg and that confederacy? That's my question.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. And you can see that in Obadiah, the first chapter. And you can also see it in Tehillim and Psalms chapter 83, that there is a conspiracy. Now, one can look at that and say that happened during the time of King David, when David's enemies were surrounding him and he made that statement. Okay, but we also know there's duality in prophecy. We understand, even with the Creator's name, who has been, who is, and who will forever be as now. To say that is to say we can abstract the principle and see that there is an actual confederacy, and it also proves reincarnations. The same nations we were fighting then, we're fighting now. They may take on different names. So there is a prophetic conspiracy, and you see this all throughout the Tanakh. This is why everywhere we went, quote unquote, that man was always there, right next to us. Can you hear me, Dr. Bain? He was always next to us. Okay, he was always next, whether you're talking the movie industry, whatever. I don't want to keep that. I'm gonna get to Dr. Ben, but I seen Zion Lexx. You had something highlighted. What was that you highlighted? Your screen went out. Could you you highlighted that for a reason? What you got there?
So I have an email, a series of emails that I save, because I say to myself, if Facebook goes down, if Instagram goes down, you know, how do we keep and pool our sources, like in terms of our research and our studying. So some of the strongest points of my study, I save in certain emails, right? I'll write it, copy and paste it, and I'll save in multiple emails so that all of my deep and dearest information is not in one place, but I spread them out. So what we're looking at
That's
right
smart.
now is
That's
actually
smart.
my gematria notes, which go back to
Okay.
1997 when I first began to study gematria. All right. So
Okay.
in quoting what Ben Tsedek mentioned about Deuteronomy 31, I have something in my gematria notes about that, right? And it also reigns true with Deuteronomy 32. We know in the book of Deuteronomy 32, and let me just pull up the Tanakh really quick.
Take your
As
time.
I'm doing that, let me draw from my Tanakh. In the book of Deuteronomy 32, we have the infamous song that the Creator asked Moses to sing before the children of Israel, that this song may serve as a witness as those things that would fulfill us in the latter days, right? When we get to verse 18, the Creator says, you ignored, hallelujah, you ignored the rock who gave birth to you and forgot God who brought you forth. The Lord will see and be provoked by the anger of his sons and daughters, and he will say, I shall hide my face from them, and I will see what their end will be, for they are a generation of reversals, children whose upbringing is not in them. They provoked me with no gods and angered me with their vanities. So shall I anger them with a no people and with a vile nation. So the Creator said, when we serve false gods, we move him to anger and jealousy, because that which we ascribe to them really belongs to him. So he said that he is going to exact measure for measure and give us the same, because in the same vein that we ascribe to lowercase gods the attributes of the one and true God, so it is that he would take a no people and put upon them all of our attributes, in fact, our name, and it would move us to jealousy. And we know who that people is, because watch this. I'm going to highlight this really big so everybody could see it. And watch this.
We can see it. We can see it.
Okay. Let me make sure. There we go. In Deuteronomy 30, in Deuteronomy 32, verse 21, it says, they provoked me with a no God and angered me with their vanities. So shall I anger them with a no people and with a vile nation. The phrase angered me with their vanities in Hebrew is naval achisim. That has a numerical equivalency of 283, which is the numerical equivalence of how you say kuzarim in Hebrew, which is the way to say kazars in the plural.
Woo!
Also, the number 283, when you add 2 plus 8, that's 10. 10 plus 3, that's 13. Arthur Koestler spoke of these people as the 13th tribe.
Gang.
Also, to connect what Ben Tsedek was saying, he said, what is the connection between Esau and these people? The phrase Kayil Amalek, which denotes the strength of Amalek, is numerically equivalent to Hakuzarim, the Khazars.
Yo, listen. I ain't gonna lie. I think this right here is gonna be the most powerful duo, trio in history, yo. For real. So now he clearly answered that. Yes, sir. Yes, I can hear you, Dr. Bang.
Since you are in East Africa, since you are in East Africa, I'm sure you're able to witness the East. I'm sure you're able to ascertain information pertaining to the East African Ishmaelite sponsored slave trade of African people.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
Again, staying on the topic of the conspirators, we notice that in Bereshit 26, Esau first inbred with Canaan, and then he inbred by marrying an Ishmaelite. Now, when you look at the prophetic mandate that was given to Ishmael, it says that he will be a para, wild. I kind of define it as divisive. And then it said he will make enmity or conflict amongst his brethren. So we notice a warlike nature. So whatever cosmology he formulates, it will expand by way of division, divisive warlike nature. So now we notice that Esau inbred with not only Ishmael, but Canaan. So my question now is this. That set the stage for the conspiracy. Could it be then that Esau now collaborated with Ishmael in order to, again, fulfilling Deuteronomy 31, verse 21, in order to enslave those who are on the rivers of Cush into East Africa, in order to, again, fulfill Psalms 83, which is to destroy our identity. So when we look now in Northeast Africa, we see another set of people calling themselves Arabs. But they are also coming from the same region as the Khazar, Turkey.
You're breaking up a little bit, Dr. Bang. Are you still, Zion? You can hear, right?
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay.
As he's speaking, there's a lot that I could add on to what he's saying, but I want to make sure that we hear him before I jump in.
Right. Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is, until he come back in, is just read a brief statement out of African Origins of the Major Western Religions. And the reason why I'm quoting that is because of the fact that we were coming from out of the Talmud, and the Talmud was discussing the fact that there were Israelites in West Africa. So what I wanted to do is read on page 75 this by Dr. Yosef A. Ben Yochanan. In North Africa, just before the period of Christianity's legal entry into Rome due to Constantine the Great conversion in the 4th century, there were many Hebrew tribes that are of indigenous African origin / the so-called Negroes. These African Jews, as all other Romanized Africans of this era, were caught in a rebellion in Syrincia during 115 CE against Rome, Roman imperialism and colonialism. This rebellion also marked the beginning of a mass Jewish migration southward into Sudan and West Africa along the way of the city of Air, right? Along the way of the city of Air and into the countries of Futa Julan and Senegal and Senegambia, which lie below the Pelabaric curve of the Niger River's most northern reaches, where the city of Timbuktu, Mali, presently stands. These Jews were divided into two main groups and took separate directions further southward into West and Central West Africa. One group joined the Fulanis of Futa Jalan, from whom the present population of indigenous Africans of Borno and Kurum in Nigeria inherit their Hebrew traditions. Thus, or this indigenous African Jewish penetration from North Africa into Sudan or West Africa even reached the borders of Lake Chad in Central Africa. Boom. So that's my second witness. Y'all remember, I used the Talmud. The Talmud goes back, if I'm not mistaken, I can be corrected, even though the tradition, where did the Talmud start? What, 5th century BCE? More right?
Yeah, so it depends. The Jerusalem Talmud was written in the 3rd century Common Era. The
Yes.
Babylonian Talmud was already written and redacted by the 5th century Common Era, but the traditions that they are speaking on go all the way back to the 4th and 3rd century before the Common Era.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that, because I know you have the Babylonian Talmud and the Jerusalem Talmud.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I used that.
That's whole shelf. Yeah. That's this whole side right here.
I already know how you dudes, like, look, I already know how you operate. So I see the doctor back on, so I want to close this out and just say, now we have 2 witnesses. So we have the Talmud so far saying that there were Israelites. We actually have Rabbi Harry Rosenberg's ancestors as eyewitnesses that there were Israelites from the Northern Kingdom, actual tribes in West Africa, where they wrote letters to receive blessings so they can teach. Then I went to one of the granddaddies of the Black conscious Afrocentric thought, Dr. Yosef A.A. Ben, who's confirming this migrational pattern of Israelites from Northern Africa to West Africa. And on top, he even specified, he said, and I quote, he says, there were many Hebrew tribes that are of indigenous African origin. And then he adds parentheses, the so-called Negroes. That's what he said. That's what this man said. And we have Dr. John Herbert Clark on record saying that we have to study the migrational patterns of nations, specifically the Jews of 70 AD to now. And we're going to get into that. But any of y'all have anything to say on that before I pass it back to Dr. Bain Tsedek, where he left off at? What you say about that, Zion? You muted, Zion. You muted, Lord.
Okay, nothing to add. I'm just listening.
Okay. So, Dr. Bain Tsedek, you want to continue where you left off at?
Yeah, so the point I was making is this. The fact that Edom inbred with Ishmael, it seems that there's a concerted effort now with this alliance to, by way of the Arab slave trade then, to target the children of Israel who then might be on the rivers of Cush, right? So when we look at Islam spreading throughout the African continent, could it be that this was also part of Psalms 8, that international that conspiracy to again
Dr. Bain Tsedek, you froze up. Add on to that, Zion, because I know you said you want to add on to that. Let's hear it. Yeah, add on to that.
Yeah, so I definitely will add on it. I actually did a lecture in my classes, our online academy, where we talked about who is Esau today. And we showed through the Tanakh, the Torah, and through the historical record that Esau became amalgamated among various Arabian tribes or various Ishmaelite tribes. And the real Edomites actually exist among them. However, Edom is so crafty, and we want to actually hone in on the powerful clan in Edom. So Amalek is so crafty that not only did their seed and bloodline become amalgamated among, and if I'll be specific, I would say the Saudi kingdom, but they also co-opted various Ashkenazic communities. So what's interesting about the bloodline of Edom, you have a trace of their bloodline co-opted among the Ishmaelites tribes, but namely the Saudis, and you have their bloodline co-opted among the Ashkenazim, the Ashkenazic tribes of the Eastern European Jews. We did a whole lecture on that, but if I could share my screen for a second, I'll point everyone in this direction, because the Tanakh is always our best source in discussing, what it is that we're talking about, right? So if I'm going to scroll right now, we're in Psalm 83. Psalm 83 says, hallelujah, O God, do not be silent, do not hold aloof, and do not be quiet, O God. For your enemies rage, your foes assert themselves. They plot crafty counsel against your people and take counsel against your treasured ones. They said, let us wipe out as a nation, that Israel's name will be no longer mentioned. So Psalm 83 makes it clear that there's a specific league among various nation states to cause our name and memory to cease from this world. Some major nation states have a vested interest in the world not knowing who the children of Israel are. That's why what we're seeing right now with Kyrie Irving and with Kanye is so telling, because what they're doing is telling our people who they are, but these major nation states have a vested interest in removing that information from us. And as our great brother, Dr. Ben Tsedek, mentioned a couple of moments ago, it has something greatly to do with the confederacies of both Esau and Ishmael as we proceed. Verse 5 says, they say, let us wipe them out as a nation, that Israel's name will be mentioned no more. Unanimous in their council, they have made an alliance. So what nation states are in league with one another to make sure the world doesn't find out who the Israelites are? And look who those nations are. Edom and the Ishmaelites at the top of the list. Now, again, what's interesting about Edom, and namely Amalek, is that their bloodline has co-opted the Ishmaelite tribes, namely the Saudi. If you guys are familiar with contemporary history, you know the Saudi Ishmaelites can do no wrong before America, right?
Yes.
In Saudi Arabia, they practice strict Sharia law, and they do public beheadings during their capital cases. Any other nation state that would do that, America would fly and put a bomb right on them. But they don't even play with the Saudis like that. The Saudis are deeply connected to the clan we know as Amalek, even as many of the Saudi prince have the characteristics, the biblical characteristics of Esau. You ever noticed, and let me unshare my screen for a moment. I want to just speak to the brothers on the live stream with me. Brothers, y'all ever noticed that, Mighty Hebrew, I'll use you first. In Philadelphia, when our black brothers get locked up, they have two choices when it comes to Islam. They either join mainstream Islam and wear the long in their beards, or they become NOI, right? But if you notice, the deeply religious Muslim brothers that go mainstream, why they dyeing their beards red?
That's a fact. They do that heavy in Philly.
Watch what's interesting about that. We know that the red color on the hair is characteristic of Esau.
That's a fact.
Ishmaelite tribes didn't have red beard, but those tribes among the Ishmaelites that you see with red in their beards, that's Esau. Remember,
fire.
Esau
Bring it, Zion.
is a man of color. No different than I'm from the Caribbean, right? I'm from the Caribbean. I have family in Jamaica, and I have family in Guyana. When somebody is light-skinned, we say that red-skinned girl, that red-skinned boy. Ben Tsedek, you know that.
That's right.
In America, we say something similar. Because don't we all call Nicki Minaj a red bone?
Facts.
So when the Bible said that Esau's red, it's never calling him a white man. It's calling him a lighter complexion black man.
Right.
Yes.
Red Shield. Rothschild. Exactly. Red Shield.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Exactly.
I'm loving this.
So what's interesting again, and I think Dr. Tsedek was pivotal to bring that up, is that a lot of people fail to connect what the Tanakh says. That's why we should always use the Tanakh as a standard to gauge what we're saying and teaching in our community, because where we may fail because we're humans, the Tanakh will never fail. So if we're using it as a guide and we're sticking to it, we're putting our trust in it, then we should also never fail. So Psalm 83 specifically details those nation states that have a vested interest in seeing that no one finds out who we are. And the Tanakh names at the top of that list Edom and the Ishmaelites.
Wow.
And look where both of them are right now in the Holy Land.
Right.
Because so long as they're there and they have a tie and a stake to the land, then it's harder and more problematic for us to come in. That's why our family in Dimona is getting so much issues. Their issue is not simply to fight with the Jewish government, because even if they get past that or bypass that, they still have to deal with the PLO, the Palestinians.
That's right. So, Moray, watch this now. After the Prophet Muhammad transition, you have you have the Umayyad Caliphate that went out of Arabia into Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, and then into Spain. I am theorizing that alliance involved Ishmael and Esau. It has been said that Sifrad originally is not Spain, it is in the Hijaz in Yemen. And it's a region that was controlled by Edom, which means then those who are called Sephardic Jew, they are actually Edomite Ishmaelite. They are Edomite Ishmaelite bloodline mixing with Greeks and Romans and possibly Turkish tribes. Because you notice the Sephardi prospered under the Ishmaelite rule in North Africa and Spain. I'd like for you to expound on that.
Damn.
I could certainly expound on that, but if you guys don't mind, I'd love to open up my PowerPoint on that. Because I have an entire PowerPoint.
Listen. We the best. Listen, hands down, we the best scholars. And look, we showing them how it should be done. Throw that PowerPoint up. While you get your PowerPoint, Zion Lexx, you got it, right?
Yeah, I got it.
All right, pour that up. I just want to do one quotation real quick, because y'all are in this mind state of a confederacy with Edom and Ishmael, aligning with Tehillim, the 83rd chapter, that they will wipe the name of Israel from out of the remembrance of man. So I'm right here looking at this book called The Arab Conquest of Egypt and the Last 30 Years of the Roman Dominion by Alfred J. Butler. I got it right here, and it's in your inbox. I sent Zion Lexx a copy of my PowerPoint, and I sent Bain Zedek the Rofe, and I also sent it to Lord Mikael. Now, what's interesting is the introduction was written by Dr. John Henry Clark, right? And he says, Roman exploitation, taxation, and ruthlessness caused a lot of the original Africans in North Africa to move further into the body of Africa. The question is often asked, what happened to North Africa's Black population? This is part of the answer. So we got Dr. John Henry Clark on record recognizing that there was a movement of people from North Africa, African people from North Africa into the heart or the body of Africa, West Africa. Now, one might say he just said North African, he didn't mention it. Who with North Africans were being pushed? So they have a point. So I have here Africans at the Crossroads, Note for an African World Revolution by Dr. John Henry Clark on page 276, right? And he says, out of his mouth, he says, there is a need now to study the migration of the Jews after 70 AD, when the Romans destroyed their temples and started the dispersal of the Jews of that day. Where indeed did they go? There is some evidence that some of them migrated south into the body of Africa. So I put Deuteronomy chapter 19:15 up, 2 to 3 witnesses, the Talmud. Zion Lexx backed it up with sources that he has. He's a Moray. The deepness is the Talmudic writings I use are ancestors to the Rabbi Harry Rosenberg, right? Look how deep this shit get, right? Because it's his own people that's stating that. And then he's also stating it on record. Then I use Dr. Yosef A.A. Ben to show the alignment with the Talmudic records. I use Dr. John Henry Clark, and y'all added in on top the conspiracy, because Dr. Bain Zedek said that Amalek mixed, or Edom mixed, or the Idumean mixed with the Romans, right? And then they also mixed with certain Turkic tribes and other Ishmaelites to form this cabal that Moray Abdiel was saying you can see correctly in the Ibn Saud family. That family of princes are outlining the structure that we see with the Ishmaelite princes, but through the power of Amalek. We see that. And that's why, as Zion was saying, they can do public beheadings and nobody don't say nothing. And they connect themselves with this so-called Great White Brotherhood by the way of the Arabic mystic Shriners. All of them understand the cabal that is outlined in the 83rd chapter is the Scottish Rites, the Arabic mystic Shriners, the Rosicrucians, all these different cabal / organizations, hidden brotherhood, fraternal organizations are all aligned with these ancient bloodlines, mixing with each other. You see? So that's all I wanted to say. Zion Lex, put your PowerPoint up. Let's see what you're talking about, little bro.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Now, Ops, this is a top. Yo, I'm getting inboxes. You know what they say in Zion? They said this shit we putting out is an atomic bomb.
It sure is. It sure is, man. All right. I'm not gonna do the whole PowerPoint because if I do that, I'll be staying here longer than I can. But what I will do is do the main key parts that deal with our conversation. So here we're gonna go.
Get it in.
A picture is worth 1,000 words. To our far left, you see an Ishmaelite with red tinged skin. To the far right, you see a pale white man. And I want to tell you, both of these individuals on the screen are Edom. And this PowerPoint proves that both of these individuals are Edom based on the historical record as well as even the oral tradition. We're going to see in a couple of moments that the oral tradition validates that Esau's bloodline became amalgamated among various Ishmaelite tribes, as well as various European tribes, but namely that of Ashkenaz. We're talking about Germany. So watch this. Again, I'm going to be skipping through major parts because to do the whole PowerPoint, we'd be here far too long than I have. So I am going to read this part. Edom, Edomite, Edom, in the Akkadian, Udumi, Udumu, ancient Egyptian, Jedwum, was an ancient kingdom in Transjordan located between Moab to the northeast, the Arba to the west. Arba, by the way, is the Hebrew word for west, and the Arabian desert to the south and east. So that's important. It's important to know that the plot of land that Esau has in part encompasses what is considered today modern Arabia. That's important. I'll continue reading. Most of its former territory is now divided between present-day southern Israel and Jordan. Edom appears in written sources relating to the late Bronze Age and to the Iron Age in the Levant. This is the term for Edom in the Medo-Neter. Literally, it says Edom in the Medo-Neter, right? That's the reed leaf, which can be an E. Then you have the man kneeling, right? That's also has phonetic value. That's an A. Then you have the hand. That's D. This symbol here is U or W. This is an A and an M. Then you have O. So this says Idumi, Idumi or Idumu, which is the plural form for Edomites, but in the Medo-Neter. And we know that it's a foreign people because of the Kasut glyph in the Medo-Neter, which is what this mountain range is. It's called Kasut, and it denotes a foreigner. And the throw stick that we see here, the throw stick denotes also a foreigner, but the throw sticks were used specifically to denote people of Asiatic descent by the Egyptians. And so this particular group is regarded as Asiatic, or today what we would call Semitic. So it actually says in the Medo-Neter, Idumu, Idumu, which is how you say Edomite in the plural in the Medo-Neter, because whenever something is pluralized in the Medo-Neter, the end sound is U, U, as in the Kemeti U, the Egyptians, as in the Amu, the Asiatics. All right. This is a map of ancient Edom, right? Above it, you see portions of the land of Israel, Moab, Ammon, but here in the yellow, you see where it says Kingdom of Edom. But if you were looking at a modern day map, below the land of Israel is Saudi Arabia, or i.e. Arabia. So again, it's important to know that Edom of old, the ancient Edomite kingdom, was positioned where modern Arabia is today. so it should be easily understood how they became amalgamated among Arabian tribes. Edom and Edomia are two related but distinct terms. They relate to a historically contiguous population, but to two separate, if adjacent territories, which the Edomites and Edomians occupied in different periods of their history. The Edomites first established a kingdom in the southern area of modern-day Jordan and later migrated into southern parts of the kingdom of Judah, that known as Edomia or modern-day Hebron, when Judah was first weakened and then destroyed by the Babylonians in the 6th century BC. Other names for Edom that appear throughout the Tanakh: Mount Paran, Teman, Dedan, Seir, Idumea, Bozrah, Amalek. These are all synonyms and even pseudonyms that we find for Edom all throughout the Torah and Tanakh, or i.e. the Bible. And you can just look at a couple of them. Mount Paran occupies portions of what we describe today as Arabia. So does Teman. So does Dedan. For instance, when we start talking about Sheba, as in the actual land, which is today modern Arabia, in ancient times it was called Sheba and Dedan. Sheba and Dedan. The northern part is Sheba and the southern part is Dedan. All right, so this is all parts of Arabia. I'll keep going. This is a quote taken directly out of the Tanakh, which says, "Will I not in that day, says the Lord, even destroy the wise men from Edom, and understanding from the mountain of Esau? Then your mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that everyone from the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter." Notice the Tanakh connects destroying Edom with ripping apart parts of Arabia, because where Edom was positioned is where we look at today and acknowledge to be modern Arabia. That's important. Who is this that comes from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah? Remember the term Bozrah denoting parts of Arabia. In Ezekiel 25, 12 through 14, thus says the Lord God, because of what Edom did against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and has greatly offended by avenging itself on them, therefore thus says the Lord, I will stretch out my hand against Edom and cut off from man and beast from it, and make it desolate from Teman, part of the southern part of Arabia, all the way to Dedan. That's interesting, because again, now in the book of Ezekiel, we see the description where the Creator says that he is destroying Edom, and he begins to describe the land that they occupy. And notice that we're talking about Arabia. And here you have it here again, right? This strip of land here, if you guys can see my arrow, this would be Canaan land, right? This is Dedan. This is Sheba. This is Arabia. This is where much of the Edomite clans occupied. This is where much of the Edomite clans occupied. And if you're checking the map, this is modern day Arabia. This is why, if I could add a little common sense to this, that the Ishmaelites being involved in the initial slave trade, right? Remember, how does Joseph get to Egypt? A band of slave raiders who were Ishmaelites, they carry him off to Egypt. But if we follow that trail of slave raiders, Ishmaelites weren't the only ones involved in the slave trade. Even the Edomites were involved in the slave trade. That's why in the Medu Neter you can find the term Edom, because the Edomites also supplied Egyptians with slaves. They were also helping to cultivate the slave trade in Egypt.
Damn. So that also shows that they had that shows, Lord Zion, that there was an inception to enslave the world by their beginning origins. Continue on.
That's right.
Yes. And let me just make sure that I can see all parts of my own PowerPoint, because some of it looks like it's cut off. Okay. Okay. I'm reading now Genesis 36 and 43. There are two names among the Edomite clans that stand out: Magdiel and Iram. The oral tradition commentary to Genesis 36:43 connects the Edomite clan Magdiel to Rome. To Rome. That part of the screen is cut off, but it's from Rashi. But if you guys can read Hebrew, you can see it right here in the Hebrew at the bottom. Romi. Can everybody say that? See that? Romi, where my arrow is at the bottom? Romi?
Okay, Romy, yeah, Romy for
Yes.
Rome. Yeah.
Right. So it's connecting Magdiel with Rome. So the oral tradition connects specifically the Edomite clan of Magdiel with Rome, because this is where the Edomite bloodline initially became amalgamated with when it comes to the Romans. So when we originally described some Europeans as being Edomites, that description did not describe all Europeans. It describes specifically various Romans, and not all, but various Romans, and it also described various groups in Germany, namely that of Ashkenaz, namely that of European Jewry, as you're going to see just now.
Gang. And also, just to give a heads up to the people, to know more about what Zion Lexx is talking about, you can also go to one of his elders, my elder also, Kohen Mikael Ben Levi's book, Israelites and Jews, The Significant Difference. Again, that is Israelites and Jews, The Significant Difference by Kohen Michael Ben Levi. Continue on, Zion.
Right. In that book, he does a great job of detailing the differences between Israelites and Jews. So that's a great reference. Here we go. In the Talmud, in Tractate Berachot, right? Blessings, 58a, it says, and the triumph, that is the downfall of Rome. And so it says, describing the downfall of Edom, whom the sages identified as the forefather, it's cut off, but it says of Rome. The sages of the Talmud, of the oral tradition, connect Rome as being related to Edom. So that's where that initially came from. So a lot of Israelites say, I don't believe in the oral tradition. Yes, you do. Because every time you say that a Roman is an Edomite, where do you think the source for that is? It's the oral tradition. So a lot of us are...
And Moray, I just wanted to add, the book of Jasher state that Kittim, who's a descendant of, I believe, Dodan, a descendant of Gomer, a descendant of Japheth, conquered Edom or Esau also, and they amalgamated. I just wanted to add that.
Yes, and what's interesting about that reference, Jasher is to be found in the oral tradition, in a particular branch of the oral tradition known as the Midrash. So right in the Bible, it'll tell you, if you want to know this, go into the book of Jasher. The Bible actually mentions Jasher. What's interesting is when you go to the book of Jasher and you read it in Hebrew, on the very first line, it says the Midrash of Sefer Yashar, the book of Jasher. So the book of Jasher categorically is described as part of the Midrash, which is another way of saying the oral tradition. So again, when we say in our community that we reject the oral tradition, it's from our ignorance that we even say that, because the Tanakh validates the oral tradition by name in several places, and in action and in content in several places. But I'll go on. That's an entirely different conversation.
Yes.
Now this tractate that I'm going to give you is very interesting. All right. I'm going to go into a work called Megillah. So I showed you where the oral tradition connects Edom and the Ishmaelites. But now I'm going to show you where the oral tradition connects Edom with Ashkenaz and German Jews. Watch this.
Fire.
In Megillah 6b, it says, Jermima of Edom, i.e. Germany, which is near the land of Edom, i.e. Rome, as if where the Germans would go. In this passage, in Megillah 6b, a connection is being drawn between the people of Germany and that of Edom, because it is also a known fact that the Edomite clan specific bloodlines, and we're talking really about Amalek, became amalgamated among the earliest Ashkenazic Jews. And that is why many of our elders, our Rabbi Matthews, our Rabbi Fords, our Abba Bibbins would refer to the community as Esau, because when they said it, they were aware of what the oral tradition or the Talmud says. So European Jews, make no mistake about it, they know where their connection is. They're hoping that you open this up and find it. That's why they don't bother to correct you when you start saying that the Talmud is fake and the oral tradition is fake. They don't bother to correct you. They're very comfortable with Israelites not wanting to read the Talmud, because once you read it, you're going to see the Talmud says Israelites are going to Africa in slavery. The Talmud describes the skin tone of Israelites as black. So they love that all of us Israelites keep thinking in our ignorance that the Talmud is wrong. Europeans love that because they know the moment you open the Talmud, it's going to show you more about who you are than what the Tanakh is giving you.
It do say that Shem, it do say in the Talmud that Shem is black. It does say that.
It sure does. It sure does. And if I could be a little bit more accurate, just this once, my Hebrew. Oftentimes we say the Talmud says, but we got to be careful because European Jews know the oral tradition very well. And if we don't correctly state where something is, then we give them a reason to ridicule us. So that statement is not actually in the Talmud where it says that Shem's color is black. It's in the Midrash. It's in the Midrash, a work called Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, which is a Midrashic work. So you won't actually find it in the Talmud, but you will find it in the Midrash.
I stand correct. Hallelujah.
That's fine. But let's go. Again, I have a lot in this.
So you saying we got records from them in the Midrash, correctly the Midrash, that Shem was a black man because they described Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Yes.
And that's and they describe Ham as being like black, like a raven, something like that.
Yes.
And then they start to describe Shem as black, but like a sheen or something of that nature. And then Japheth, they describe him as fair, correct?
That's a fact. If I was to be concise, I would simply say to you, all facets of the oral tradition validate the skin tone and flesh tone of the Israelites. The oral tradition is multifaceted. You have the Mishnah, that's the actual oral Torah. Then you have the Talmud, which is a commentary on the Mishnah. And then you have halakhic midrashim or halakhic or agadic midrashim, right? Which are also commentaries on the oral Torah and the oral law in general that go deep into exposition. And all of those works contain deep commentaries about the black hue and skin tone of the original Israelites. That's why they don't want. That's why they will never correct you. When we Israelites do videos banging on the Talmud, European Jews won't waste their time to say, no, it is right, because they don't want us reading that book, because that book makes it clear who we are.
And in the past, and the Israelite communities that me and you came out of, we was banging hard against the Talmud. And so we started doing our own research. And I think one of the reasons why the Talmud has a bad name is because of the mistranslations of supposedly Ham turning black and all this and enlarged penises. But when you actually go into the Talmud, it don't say that.
It don't say that. For instance,
it doesn't say that.
In that passage that you're quoting, where it talks about Ham, it says 3 copulated in the ark and were punished. Ham copulated and he was punished, and it says he was afflicted in his skin. The European adds in English, and his skin turned black. But when you look at the Hebrew in the Talmud, which represents what the Talmudic writers originally wrote, it just says he was afflicted in his skin. The
Right,
European
right.
commentary much later says, oh, it turned black. So if you're reading the Talmud and you don't know how to read the Talmud, you don't know that the words in bold black in Hebrew represent what the Talmudic writers wrote, and the words in fine print English are the modern European commentaries. If you don't know that, you're gonna think it's all one.
So you saying, so let me say this so it can be clear to the people. So basically what you saying is that the Talmudic writings were put together by our ancestors, but hijacked by European jury, so to say, through their commentaries, verse what the Talmud is saying.
That's a fact. But I got one better for you, because I can show you what I'm talking about. I'm gonna exit with this one. All right, I'm gonna make this my exit, because I
put
do
that
have
thing
to
up. Put it up there. Put that thing up there.
We're in Sanhedrin 108b. Can everybody see the screen?
Your screen not up. Now it's coming up. It's coming up now, Chief.
All right.
All right, it's up.
I'm gonna wait for the screen to go up.
It's up. It's up.
It's up?
Yep.
All right. In Sanhedrin 108b, it says, the sages taught 3 violated that directive and engaged in intercourse while in the ark, and all of them were punished for doing so. The dog, the raven, and Ham. The dog was punished in that it is bound. Raven was punished in that it spits. And Ham was afflicted in his skin. And look at this. In faint English, it says turn black, right? Does everybody see that? In faint English, it says turn black. Now watch this. If you don't know how to read Talmud, you're going to think everything here is in there, and it's not. The things that are highlighted in bold black is what you'll find in the Hebrew above, which is what I'm pointing to. So it says here, the sages taught 3 engaged in intercourse while in the ark, and all of them were punished. That's this phrase right here. Then it says the dog, which is this word right here, chalev, the raven, arov, and ham. Then it says chalev, the dog, he was what? Bound, nechesher. And they said the raven, and it says the raven was punished in that it rak, it spits. And they said Ham was lechak be'oro. Lecha in Hebrew means to afflict, and be'oro means in your skin. So where does it say here he was afflicted in his skin and it turned black? It doesn't say that in the Hebrew. Later, Jewish people added that, but the original Hebrew doesn't say that. The original Hebrew says Ham was afflicted in his skin. Now watch this. All throughout the Tanakh, skin affliction is where black skin turns white. Europeans did not want later generations to understand that, so they inserted, oh, it turned black. But the Talmudic writers didn't write that. The Talmudic writers said he was just afflicted in his skin. They never said his skin turned black. So watch what we do as silly Israelites today that don't read Hebrew, number one, and also are not familiar with the Talmud. We'll come to this passage and assume everything in English must be also what's in the Hebrew. That's why we tell people learning Hebrew is a game changer, because if you knew how to read the Hebrew, the first thing you would say is, how come in Hebrew it doesn't say his skin turned black as it does here in English? I rest my case.
So, but you know what's beautiful about this though? One of the arguments, Zion Lexx, that Garfield has, say, yeah, prior to the 15th century, show us any proof that there were travels or any points of references to, any form of documents of Israelites being in West Africa. And it was just shown tonight, not only by contemporary scholars, but the Talmud itself is telling you this, which is way older than 1500 ACE, right?
Don't we have the writings of Eldad the Danite?
Absolutely.
Doesn't he tell of Africans in West Africa that practice Torah?
And they
Yeah, he
even have
said,
an oral tradition?
yeah, and he said East Africa too. And look, the locations in East Africa that Adad the Danite said inside his writings, you can go to them locations right here in East Africa, and they're here. I just love the way and the fact that the Talmud is considered the source of authority in Judaism. So let's play the game. It's the source of authority. We just showed the source of authority. Zion Lexx went in and showed and confirmed not only the Talmudic records I brought, but he added with much more. And he clarified that the skin color of Shem isn't in Talmud, but it's in the Mishnah, right? I mean, the Medrash, right? And it says he was black. So not only do we have, because remember, Chief, the whole thing of this anti-Semitism, but the Talmud is in record telling you Shem is black. Not the Talmud, excuse me, the Midrash, the Midrash is telling you that he was black. Then the Talmud is telling us that the Israelites went into West Africa. We have Rabbi Harry Rosenberg's family ancestors right into black, quote unquote, black African Israelites in West Africa to receive the blessing. Then we got Afrocentric scholars, Sheikh Anta Diop, which I didn't get into yet, but Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, they all saying that there was migrational patterns. One thing that I noticed that was said that we would die in the Sahara, but with people that don't go on the ground in Africa fail to realize is that the migrational patterns were predicated on the frankincense trade. Zion Lexx knows this. Dr. Bain Zedek knows that there were trading routes from northeastern Africa to West Africa. So it wouldn't be, and we have Bedouin tribes and other tribes today that live in the Sahara. So the statement of Israelites couldn't survive migrating from northeastern Africa to West Africa is absurd. But yo, I love the way you broke down the Talmud, and I feel as though we need to get more into this manuscript. And I feel as though we need scholars like yourself, the tutelage, even teachers like myself and even others that understand it, because you don't want to seek the Talmud on your own. You need a teacher. And it's the saying that I say, it's like one wanting to be a Shaolin monk, but they disregard the abbot. So if our number one master teacher in this, amongst this generation is Zion Lexx, then brothers and sisters need to go and learn. So we, like what he just showed, majority of that stuff that was in English, it wasn't even in the Hebrew. It wasn't even there. So the misconception is what's causing our people to fall short of the oral tradition. You can tell in the Tanakh that there was next to the written, the oral. There had to be, the oral was first. And you can go even into West Africa and Central Africa, you still see elements of that oral tradition, of oral traditions giving clarity of what is written. Hallelujah. But that right there, it destroys the whole argument just by using just the Talmud alone. Is destroying everything they stand on. So the attack on Kanye West, the attack on Irvin, Nick Cannon, it's all vanity, because the sages and the Rabbeinu and all those that came before us in these writings is clearly confirming the statements of what Kanye West and Irvin and all of them are saying. about them being Shemitic.
That's a fact.
Accelerate.
But let me segue out of here, Mighty Hebrew. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to come and share. As you know, we really do love sharing information, right? There's a proverb that says, "More than the calf wishes to suckle, the mother wishes to feed." And that the way in which that proverb is unwrapped is that teaching is a practice from whence it's not just the student that benefits, but even the teacher benefits, right? Because one's labor as a teacher in research is compensated by the gratitude and reward that a person feels when they come into tutelage and learning. So this is a two-way thing. So teachers do enjoy to impart, just as students and people enjoy to receive. So again, I'm honored to have the opportunity to do my share, to do my part. And I thank you, brothers, man. I would love to come back at another time and have a righteous build about the oral tradition and how much it validates the transatlantic slave trade. That's a conversation we should have.
Yeah, I seen you do little portions on that. You know what I'm saying? I even got your book where you breaking down in the numerical value of the slave trade, Deuteronomy 28:68. That right there was definitely from the Creator, because to this day, if you notice, Zion, to this day, nobody has ever did like a presentation debunking that. I've never seen nobody like actually attack that demand that you put in your book,
because the gematria is accurate. So to attack that, what they would have to attack gematria itself. The numerical equivalency of the phrase in Hebrew, lo tishma shana, right? A nation whose language you will not understand, is numerically equivalent to 1227. 1227 is the numerical equivalence of Sakar Avadim HaTransatlantique, the transatlantic slave trade. I even did something, which is why I was holding up my other laptop earlier. I did something on the fly just now about Christopher Columbus's name, and I can show and prove how it relates to passages in Deuteronomy 28, starting from verse 51 and ending at verse 65. Christopher Columbus. I'm gonna share that on social media in the next couple of days. But what I want to exit saying is the transatlantic slave trade is in fact and in part validated in Raphael Shimshon Hirsch's commentary on the Chumash. Shimshon Hirsch is the foremost Hebrew grammarian, linguist, and etymologist on the Hebrew language, acknowledged by all Jews around the world globally as the foremost grammarian and etymologist and linguist on the Hebrew language. In his commentary on Deuteronomy 28:68, wait till y'all see what he has to say about them slave ships.
We need to set this up like soon as availability is on your end, man.
Yes.
We need, and it's strictly on the oral tradition and and how it affected us socially throughout the generations. But I can't wait to see that.
Likewise, man. So again, thank you for having me. You guys have a great evening. Continue to have a great live, and I'll see you guys later. Lek lecha ya.
Hallelujah. Shalom aleichem, Adoni.
Shalom aleichem.
Hallelujah. Oh, it was definitely an honor and a privilege to have Zion Lexx on deck. Oh man, it's always good. Like I've known Zion Lexx for like so many years, since we come from out of the same. He come from out of Shema Israel, out in Brooklyn, New York. Give a shout out to Chief Prince of Paul. You know, he come out of that. I come out of Philly by the way of Kephraim / the Kingdom of Yah. So I was connected with the Torah Center School, Kephraim, founded by Kazari Darben Yisrael, and I was connected with the Kingdom, you know, founded by the late Adonenu Rabbeinu Ben Ami, you know, Prince Asiel, the late Prince Asiel, the late Prince Shaliah, you know, the late Prince Keskiyahu, the living legend. You know, we have right now with us still here, Nasi Prince / Gabriel, also known as Gabriel Hagadol, you know, and many others that came before us. But before I close this out, I would like to give a few more references to the PowerPoint. I will come back on a separate day and do the PowerPoint, but I have here a source, a reference known as Pre-Colonial Black Africa by Sheikh Anta Diop. Y'all can see it right here. We will have the PowerPoint up, and it's a quotation that he said here. He said, according to Tariq El Fatah, an Israelite minority also lived in the bent of the Niger region of Timdarma and had made a speciality in cultivating vegetables watered with fresh well water instead of river water. So we still getting this confirmation. Remember, I brought the Talmud up in the beginning of my PowerPoint, but before then I gave reverence to the elders. Then I went to Deuteronomy chapter 32, not 32, excuse me, 1915, about the 2 to 3 witnesses. Then I used the Talmud, which is the authoritative record for Judaism and their own book, if that's what they consider, because from where Zion Lexx and other Israelites that deal with the oral tradition of Talmud is that they can prove that it was written by not only our people, but it shows that the Shemitic people were black. Well, the Midrash, right? The Midrash says that about Shem, but the Talmud does give you the migrational pattern of the Israelites into West Africa, which says beyond the rivers of Nubia / Cush, confirming Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9 and 10, right? And then we brought forth contemporary scholars, Sheikh Anta Diop, we just read, Sheikh Anta Diop quoting Tariq El Fatah, which was an eyewitness in Timbuktu in 1652, seeing the Israelite presence in Africa, West Africa, right? So let's go to the book, Hebrewisms of West Africa. Let's go to Hebrewisms of West Africa, right? And I have a quote here. All right, let me grab it. Hallelujah. This was a powerful bill. This was a powerful bill tonight. I ain't gonna lie. And it says, long before the destruction of Jerusalem by Titus, the Mediterranean Sea shore of Africa had become lined with influential Jewish, Israelite colonies, which undoubtedly were in constant mercantile relations with the interior of the Dark Continent. But Egypt especially had been the haven of the refugees from Jerusalem at the time of the Babylonian captivity. And for many subsequent centuries, the Israelite element in the land of the pharaohs continued to increase and prosper. That's in Joseph J. Williams, Hebrewisms of West Africa, From Now to Niger with the Jews, page 23, right? Let's give some more sources. Let's go to God, the Black Man in Truth by the late Ben Ami, as you can see right here, by the late Ben Ami. So let's check out what he says real quick, right? Let's check it out, right? We're going to give sources. So he says, many of the descendants of Abraham followed Moses from Egypt, but some remained in Egypt while others migrated south and westward. Those migrating Hebrews explain why traces of Hebrew culture can be found throughout West, Central, and East Africa. Many scholars believe the ancestors of the Fulani, Ashanti, Iwi, Yoruba, Bantu, and other peoples were in fact early Hebrew Israelites. Ben Ami, God, the Black Man in Truth, page 14. Let's go to the book, A Lost Tribes, a Myth, by Dr. Ali H. Godbey, PhD. Let's go to him and let's see what he said, right? They say source up. So I'm sourcing it up. It says, Yoruba Jews claim that their ancestors were driven from oasis to oasis and called themselves by the Hebrew name Bene Ephraim. Alan H. Gabe, PhD, The Lost Tribes of Myth, page 245. In the same book, Lost Tribes of Myth, we have the picture below that was taken from the book, Lost Tribes of Myth, by Dr. Alan H. Gabe, PhD of Duke University Press, 1930. You see Judean Hebrews from Upper Senegal, West Africa. These men are the descendants of the ancient Judean nation. Their ancestors fled from Jerusalem before the arrival of the Roman armies, which were under the command of Vespasian and General Titus of 70 AD. And this is a drawing. When they went, the European explorers went into West Africa. These are some of the images that they seen of the Hebrews in West Africa. Look at our people. Facts, right? I'm showing all these sources. In the same book, we have here a map below Ashanti, Ghana, and Dahomey and Benin Jews. And you see a map right here. We see Bene Ephraim, Dahomey and Jews, and Israelite traces. And there, and I, as you can see, there, you see encircled the name, everything of our people being in these regions in West Africa. So there's no denial of this. Hallelujah. Let's continue on. We have here Yoruba, sons of Ephraim, right? As stated in many books regarding the Igbos, the father of the Yoruba people. Odum Dumwa traveled with Gad's sons, Eri, Ari, and Aradi, from North Africa, likely Egypt, and settled in what today is known as Nigeria. This would coincide with the Yoruba oral history that they believe to come from outside of West Africa, and thus it would not be no surprise that we might find Israelites, Hebrews, and Jews amongst the Yoruba, right? This is what they say. This ain't something that I'm making up. This is something that they're saying out their mouths, right? Now, I'm going to play something real fast so y'all can hear real quick, and you're going to hear Yoruba Israelites from Nigeria breaking down how they got to the land. So let me go there real quick. I'm going there now. And I want y'all to hear what they say out of their own mouth about their oral tradition. Okay? Okay. It's not about what I say. It's about what is known. So hold on, let me get to it. Okay, that's it right there. Okay, I'm getting it now, y'all. Hold on. Because it's telling us, it's going to tell us how they got there. So hold on. Listen.
Josephus are not Jews by birth. No.
Listen.
We are scattered. We are original Hebrews. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, praise be to the Most High God.
Now, I want y'all to hear this.
I was opportunity to meet my grandparents who from childhood had always been able to understand that we are one of the lost tribes of Israel. So from my grandmother, Nigeria was always a united country, united by by culture and several predispositions in geography and history. To be honest, when we go from as far back as we can think about it, all the migrations through Africa from the Middle East down to West Africa and right down to South Africa and up again to Zimbabwe and into Nigeria. And that's how Nigeria was formed. It was a migration that lumped so many people together, and different ways of migrations came. The last that came was the Fulani migration. That last of the many, but that was how almost all the other groups moved into Nigeria. There is a sense in which all the languages across Nigeria are actually seasoned from one source. I mean, there's a book in existence on when Igbo and Yoruba were one language. And reading that book, you don't even, on a daily basis, you listen to the two languages and you find that the root words are virtually the same across the board. And it is not only these languages. If you pursue the migration to Southern Africa, you will find that very many of the languages in Southern Africa, those migrations that move from West Africa to South Africa before moving up again to Central Africa, all of them have common root words. In fact, if you listen to Zulu speech, you will hear Edo words that mean exactly the same things across the board. So that when we are discussing how different we are, and you see a Kanu telling us that he's Jewish, the truth is that the Jewish migrations into Africa pulled so many of the different groups together. If an Igbo man is a Jew, then the Yoruba man is also a Jew. If an Igbo man is a Jew, then the Yoruba man is also a Jew. The truth is that all those migrations had common sources. And so,
boom. So y'all heard it out of their mouths. Y'all heard it. So y'all heard it straight out their mouths. So this is not something that we're coming up with. You see what I'm saying? That we have evidence of scholars in West Africa saying the same thing. You see what I'm saying? Oh, it's going to get even deeper. Watch this. A few more slides and then we close out. But this was a powerful discussion. A powerful discussion. So let me just close it out with this. The book, Nelson Mandela, The Man in the Movement, by Mary Benson, right? Now, y'all know Nelson Mandela was from South Africa. So let's hear. At home, Nelson Mandela, as a child, heard of more recent events not taught in history lessons of how in 1921, General Smuts, the prime minister, had sent an army which massacred 163 men, women, and children at nearby Borahonki in the Eastern Cape, members of an Israelite sect. They had refused to move from the common ground in which they were camping. That was in the book, Mary Benson, Nelson Mandela, The Man in the Movement, page 17. We have the other book here written by Robert Egger, Because They Chose the Plan of God, the story of the Borahonki massacre of May 24th, 1921. We have it right here, right? In 1921, right? And it says, on May 24th, 1921, a force of 800 white policemen and army troops gathered at a place called Borahonki, 5 kilometers southwest of Queenstown in the Eastern Cape. The government had instructed them to confront an African prophet, Enoch Gijomo, and his religious group called the Israelites, When the battle was over, nearly 200 Israelites lay dead and many others wounded. We know this battle as the Bar Hart Massacre. Robert Egger, because they chose the plan of God, page 1. And here's a picture of the late Enoch Guillemot, right? In the book they wrote on him called The Genius from 1868 to 1928, M.D. Gourwa. Here's a picture of him right here. And that community still stands today in South Africa. It still stands today, right? And look, they even still have the place where the late prophet lived, right? And this is Gojomo's old barn, which still stands right now. It still stands to this day in South Africa, right? And the Israelite community over there takes care of it. So to say all this is that we have unadulterated evidences of the Israelite presence all throughout Central Africa, West Africa, East Africa, etc., etc. What I'm saying to the family is that understand this is just the beginning of the massive migration that's going to take place, that's going to fulfill Yeshayahu or Isaiah chapter 11, 11, and 12. I want to thank the guests that came today. I want to thank Dr. Bain Zedek for coming on the Rofe. I would like to thank Chief Abdiel Bilewi, also known as Zion Lexx, for coming on. If anybody would like to donate to the Hebrew Israelite Sovereign Nationalistic Repatriation Movement that we have here in Tanzania, please do at Cash App, $ Princess Etana, capital P, Princess, capital E, Etana, EITANA. As y'all can see on the screen, this is the Mighty Hebrew, Tribal Minister Prince Shard Landine, Benami Montezayam Ben Yasha Allah Senior. Anybody wants to enroll in the Mighty Hebrew University, you can at tmhu.org. tmhu.org. The students that are watching now, the Understanding Ancient Archaic Antediluvian Hebrew Symbolism will be up in the next 2 weeks. It's very extensive. It's very extensive. So your marginal will be up. For those Sheik 7L and a couple others that went through the Hebrew Anthropogenesis, you will be getting your certificates with your 3 credits on there. Each certificate, y'all know y'all get 3 credits. It's definitely an honor to continue to teach. We here live and direct on the Way of Yah podcast by way of True Flicks Network. I want to close out, give all honor and praise to the creator of heaven and earth, Yahweh, the supreme, intelligent, powerful one of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, those that are striving for righteousness' sake. I say unto the family, Shalom Aleichem. You know, I'm closing it out for my brother. If I could put on the song, I would, but I don't have the equipment actually to do so. But what I will do is leave you with a thought. Remember this, y'all. Always remember, a man or woman's measurement is determined by his or her work's worth. One more time. A man or a woman's measurement in life is determined by a man or a woman's work's worth. Always remember that. The Mighty Hebrew signing out. I love you. Shalom Aleichem. Hebrew Israelite, sovereign nationalism has risen worldwide.